Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of intense racing action in the one and only series you all know and love. It is the UK Sim Racing Community's GT3 League Season 15, sponsored by the virtual racing school VRS and brought to you proudly on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. We're back from our mid-season break and we're here today of course for round number 4 of 10, and we have made our way to the Virginia International Raceway in the US state of Virginia. A circuit arguably well known for its wide array of corners, elevation changing extended straights. It is a circuit that sees GT3 class machinery take to its asphalt year in, year out in IMSA, and it is a circuit like no other when it comes to complexity, with many of its corner sequences being rapid fire in amongst all those elevation changes and a number of blind apexes. For many of our drivers here today, it's going to feel as though it's a return from a break and one that's going to see them back on their full intense pressure when it comes to be able to deliver in their best possible laps time and time again. But in all the cool and all the consistency, who will prove themselves to be the most collected to come away with victory here today and continue their momentum from the first half of the season? Well, that's what we're here to find out in this post-round broadcast. Indeed, you're tuning into a live broadcast right now, and we welcome you all to tune in and say hello to all you guys and girls tuning in, whether it be via the UK Sim Racing YouTube channel at youtube.com and search for UK Sim Racing. Alternatively, you could be tuning in right now, of course, via the UK Sim Racing Twitch channel, and that's at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. Whether it's YouTube or whether it's Twitch, we say hello to one and all there, as we do say hello in the YouTube chat. He says, let's go. That's Thomas Helmer there, and good evening to you, Thomas, and I hope you're doing well. Indeed, let's go racing once again, ladies and gentlemen. This broadcast is live, but it is a post-round broadcast. What exactly does that mean? Well, what it means is all the racing action you are seeing is not live. It actually occurred as of yesterday on Sunday, the 20th of July, 2025, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday, the 21st of July. In the commentary booth, we do not know what happens in the practice session that's about to conclude, or alternatively, the upcoming qualifying session or the race itself. So that means it's completely raw and new to us here in the commentary booth, and we're going to deliver it as if it were absolutely live, raw and new to you guys and girls tuning in that time, because we seriously do not know what happens. And what we do of course ask in the respective YouTube and Twitch chats that if you do happen to know the outcome of all the racing, please do not put any spoilers in there for all the uninitiated, as at the end of the day this is going to be as close as possible to the raw live experience. Of course, unfortunately for this season we can't bring you live broadcasts from the rounds themselves due to some scheduling limitations, but as close as possible to live. And if you haven't had a post-round broadcast before, well, you're in for a treat, because you won't be able to tell by the end of it, unless you know what's already happened, how different this is from a live experience broadcast. But as we get ready to go racing today, well, let's give you a recap of the story so far and what we've still got lying in wait. And as we can see, 3 rounds have been completed already. We opened up in the US of A at the Daytona International Speedway on the 22nd of June. There, it was a runaway performance for many a driver, but in the elite class in particular, one driver stood out from everybody, and that was Daniel Stasuk, who absolutely dominated at Daytona. And, well, when we made our way to Brands Hatch in the United Kingdom a week later, he wasn't on the grid, and indeed we got to see some different performances out there from our elite drivers. But conversely, further on down the field, we got to see back-to-back wins, and the man who eventually got promoted all the way up to the elite cars, and of course he was in pro, and it was none other than our Ford Mustang driver who found himself promoted, and well, it was Joe Newman who made his way to the top of the field, but was too strong there, and after Brands Hatch ended up being moved to elite, and it opened up a bit of a power vacuum. And in round number 3 at the Fuji International Speedway in Japan, we got to see plenty of big surprise there, and when the pro class, with Joe Newman's promotion, it left a void, and in that void, a perfect score for Ruben Berings meant that he has gone into the championship lead coming into this round, but only by a slender margin between him, Ryan Davies and Xander Hill. And let's not forget, of course, our AM class, well, that's our AM class out there with the fact we do have Brett Berings, who stands at the top of the stands by 11 points and seems to be the only one out there to lead the way, but can anybody spring a surprise on him? And in the rookie class was a dominant performance at Fuji. He is a bit of a Fuji merchant, is BJ Alvarez, and well, could we see him carry on that momentum here today? Those are all the questions we've got to answer, indeed plenty, here at the Virginia International Speedway. Is, of course, round number 4, and after today we've got an action-packed schedule to see us through to the second half of the season's conclusion. Round number 5 in a week's time, we're in Italy at the Misano World Circuit, Marcus Simoncelli. Then round number 6, we start off the UK Sim Racing Challenge Cup, and that's where we will see all the drivers score points in their respective classes for only the second half of the season. And well, that's completely new here in the UK Sim Racing GT3 League. I believe it is new or relatively not done in sim racing series around the world, and it's to replicate real-life racing series where you can have a championship plus also a cup, and more on that when we do get to round number 6, exact logistics. But that will see us at Circuit de Magny Court on the 3rd of August, after which we continue to run away through August all the way to the end of the season with round 7 at Interlagos or the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Then we make our way back to the United States of America for the final time this season for Road America in round number 8. Round number 9, we head to the home of British Motorsport, the home of the BDRC, the British Drivers Racing Club Association, at the Silverstone Circuit. And for our penultimate round to our season finale, save the date, the 31st of August, it'll be the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecker, or the Grosser Preis Strecker, and round 10 of 10, we'll see it all come down in Germany, and that's where we'll be crowning our drivers and teams champions. As we come into today then, well, of course, let's talk a little bit about our host circuit. It is the Virginia International Raceway's full course. Located near the commune of Alton in Halifax County of the US state of Virginia, this circuit is synonymous with club, national and international racing as far as the eye can see. And a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the fantastic track maps that come with it. Consisting of 17 corners, well, this circuit does have some interesting names with regards to its corners, albeit some of them we can't repeat on the broadcast, and interestingly, we're not running the layout, which would refer to those interesting names, but indeed those in the know, you will know exactly what word and what corner I'm referring to. We're not going to be mentioning that here today because we want to keep this suitable for children. But speaking of suitable for children here, well, it's child's play, is it not, coming into Horseshoe at turn number 1. Indeed, for all the drivers, it'll feel that way until they suddenly realise in the opening apex, it's a very late apex hairpin. Out of there, they'll make the way into turns 2, 3 and 4. NASCAR Bend at turn number 3, known as NASCAR Bend for the fact it's claimed many a NASCAR Champions race around there, and indeed a very tricky corner to get right at turn number 3. Get it right, then they're going to left hook, and it won't be followed by a right hand jab, but instead will be followed by a right hand kink at turns 5 and 5A, while they roar the way through the kinks of Snake at turns 6 and 6A onto the fast uphill run, and it will be through the curvature at turns 7, 8 and 9, the quick direction changes there, where it's all about balancing the throttle as best as humanly possible. Get it right over 9, they'll find themselves cresting the ridge before coming downhill through South Bend at turn number 10. They've got to be careful there, and that's where we could see plenty and off, and the grass surface around here highly slippery even in dry conditions, and normally elevated away from the circuit, so when you do fall off the racing surface, you fall very far away. However, those who do not fall off, they'll make their way down towards Oak Tree Corner at turns 11 and 12, the hairpin that'll send our drivers around and onto the back stretch. The extended straight will then see our drivers make their way all the way up into roller coaster at turns 13 and 14, and it's known as a roller coaster because it is a huge downhill descent, indeed likened to a bit more of a gradual corkscrew from the other American circuit of Laguna Seca Raceway in the US state of California. But from a corkscrew there to the roller coaster here, it's going to be a thrill ride all the way through a 14 in towards turns 15 and 16, before they head into Hogpen at turns 17 and 17A to charge onto the start-finish straight, only to do it all again or see that infamous checker flag. But as we come into today, of course, let's give you a reminder of the rules, because we can't go racing without them. Car setup wise, this is an open setup series with fuel loads restricted to 60% for all races, and that does of course mandate a pit stop, more on that in due course. Qualifying wise, you'll see a closed qualifying format being used with drivers having 4 flying laps available to them plus their out lap within a 10-minute window. They have to deliver those laps within 10 minutes. If they don't, then they will have their latest lap accounted for. There's no overtime in qualifying. As for the race, it shall commence via a double file rolling start, as is the tradition of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League. There's 1 mandatory pit stop for fuel, changing tyres is entirely optional. Each driver has 1 fast repair available, and should our drivers be naughty enough and pick up enough instant points, or 20 instant points for contacts, off tracks and loss of control, they'll receive a drive-through penalty that must be served within the next couple of laps. All race stewarding, meanwhile, shall be conducted post-race. We'd also like to remind you, as has been the theme this season, and our continued sponsorship agreement with our title sponsor, the Virtual Racing School, a big thank you to them for being with us throughout the season. Each round we shall be giving away VRS competitive subscriptions to our entrants, and each round we shall be giving away via separate rapid draws a 3-month subscription, a 2-month subscription, and a 1-month subscription. Now, any driver who takes to the grid for this round, indeed each round, shall be eligible to enter the raffle draw for each prize, so long as they have not won it previously in a previous round. Now, we are keeping tabs on who the winners have been. So far, we have not seen a repeat winner where one name has come up in, say, the 3-month subscription draw, and then subsequently in the 2-month subscription draw. We have had 9 different names over the first 3 rounds. Will we see our first repeat name? Well, we'll have to wait and see, and we'll be announcing our giveaway winners live on the broadcast after the racing concludes. But ladies and gentlemen, let's head back to the circuit side, and as we do, well, let's walk you through that schedule very quickly there, as we see Milton Tomlinson Dennis sitting stationary for a brief moment, and well, he's with Lenny right now getting ready to go into qualifying. But let's take a look then at that schedule for this evening, and as we can see on British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Chrono Time UTC +1, in what will be about a minute or so, we'll be heading into qualifying. In fact, I think that's coming up very shortly. We are slightly ahead of the schedule this evening, but 10 minutes of qualifying, after which we head into our 60-minute feature race, and that will be flat out all the way. They'll go from start to finish with a little bit of strategy thrown in, and who will come out on top here in the US state of Virginia? Well, we're going to find out immediately, because we are heading into qualifying, and all the drivers are getting themselves set as quickly as possible here, and I believe it is go, go, go in this qualifying session. So as they roll the way on out, we've already got a couple of drivers out there, including Pavel Dozal, and well, the Paceworks esports driver here, one of many in the elite class, trying to find an answer to Daniel Stasuk, who you can see here in the Acura for NJB Performance, and he has been the man to beat all the way through the season to date. As we say hello to Alex Brown there in the YouTube chat, and good evening to you, Alex. I hope you're doing well, and we do hope to see you on the grid this evening. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, the initiator, you'll see plenty of the drivers tuning in via the broadcast, because they do love to see all the racing action as it unfolded. And of course, the one thing for our drivers, these post-round broadcasts, is they get to watch back a live experience of all the races that happened. And indeed, there's always some hijinks and always a bit of banter with regards to the fact that the commentator, I myself, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, I get to react to this all live, and essentially they get to see it happen. They get to see what else happened around on circuit, because of course their race is just enclosed around them. They don't necessarily get to know exactly what happened further up and down the running order, and that's why we do love this post-round broadcast format. But unfortunately, Alex Brown not on the grid there, as he does confirm in the YouTube chat. And we also say hello to Ruben Berings, one of the 2 Berings family members, and you see the other one here for DDK Racing Team of Brecht Berings, and they have been dominant drivers when they've been on form in their respective classes, with Brecht being in none other than the M class, and meanwhile Ruben being in the Pro class. And indeed, both of them putting on absolute elite performances with respect to their rivals, and that's not to try and encourage them to be promoted up classes at all, but that has been the caliber they've brought in, week out. And well, as they all head on around, our first flying laps are about to get underway, as we also look a little bit further down the order to one of our rookie runners, and this is Alistair Murray, and he's then out there in the Mercedes AMG and heading on to his first flying lap. But what can we expect here at the Virginia International Raceway Circuit, or VIR as it's abbreviated to? Well, it's a highly complex circuit. I would argue that this is a circuit that's more about driver confidence and ability than it is about a particular car and the balance of performance, because the one thing about this circuit is, yes, you have a lot of grass. Yes, you theoretically have a lot of runoff space before you hit a barrier. However, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, the problem with the grass around here is it's very slippery, and it normally ducks away from the surface, i.e. elevates downwards rather than upwards. And that means when you go wide, you normally do take a very quick trip, and you end up having quite the picnic before you get your way back onto the circuit. So for here, for our drivers today, it's all about the confidence factor. Can you carry the speed from apex to apex and on these elongated straights, particularly the run through Snake and all the way up the rise here? This is where our drivers will be put to the ultimate confidence test, because those who are brave enough, they'll be practically flat out all the way through turns 7, 8 and 9, time before getting to 10, whereas those less confident, they will have to back off and potentially even dab a tiny bit of brake at turn number 9 to settle the front end of the car down. And that is going to be the difference here. Those who are able to maximise their speed, they will be able to run away with this, whereas those who are not as confident, they may find themselves falling backwards into battles rather rapidly indeed. But as we also see Sean Cranny-Swash out there at the moment in the Pigeon Racing Ford Mustang, and huge shout out to Sean for the fact that in the absence of our regular replay provider of Jack Barker for this race weekend, well, the replay was provided by the 117 Ford Mustang of Sean Cranny-Swash, and that's why we're able to bring you this broadcast. So big thank you to Sean for that, and sacrificing a little bit of hard drive space to make sure we can see all the action. But as he heads on up towards turns 13 and 14 and towards the roller coaster he goes, well, we will be getting an onboard lap in due course. We've got plenty of drivers here today. I do believe we've got the best part of 40 plus drivers here. It's a very crowded field, and well, as we see, Tobias Crew can get the first flying up on the board, where it is a 1 minute 45.752, and well, now everybody else will fall in as we see Daniel Stasuk immediately raises the bar to 45.438. And well, what about some other drivers out there? Well, it looks as though so far Ruben Berings has set the provisional pole pro time. Say that very quickly 3 times, I dare you, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness me, that's plosive alliteration if we've ever had it. And it's the DK Racing Team driver, your pro championship leader, who makes his way through the left into the right here and looking absolutely smooth, as we also say hello to Chris Edisford there, the head of UK Sim Racing, and we'll be on our best behaviour, I promise you, Chris. We're only joking there, but we say hello to Chris Edisford in at the YouTube chat, and I hope you're doing well, Chris. As Ruben Berings makes his way along, well, right now, the two Berings family members are right next to each other in the timing tower, 9th and 10th overall, as Nils Bauckhage moves his way into 3rd, and, well, he's looking very good at the moment. He's a little bit behind his teammate Daniel Stasuk in the championship points, but it is a 1-2 between the two teammates at the moment, at NJB Performance, and they'll be looking to try and move a little bit further forward here today. But coming on to the rookie class a bit further down, Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars. And well, I can tell you one thing, he may be an old dude and he might be in a McLaren 720S, but he can absolutely hustle this McLaren as if he's a younger dude on the grid. 5 minutes of this qualifying session complete, and right now he's looking to move a little bit further up the order. He's currently second of the AM drivers. And how can you tell who is Elite, Pro, AM and Rookie? Well, you can tell based on the door boards, where you've got those colours around the door backends, plus also you can tell on the left-hand side of the timing tower by the stripe against the car driver name, whereby if you're Daniel Stasuk, for example, top of the tower, you have a black stripe, that means you're elite. Meanwhile, if you're Ruben Berings, who's in 9th, well, you've got a light blue stripe, that means you're a pro. If you are the likes of Darren Sharples, for example, alternatively Tom Weston as the DK Racing Team driver makes his way down through the roller coaster, well, with that green stripe, that makes you an AM. And if you've got a red stripe there, and it's none other than Dan Oliver Fox who's going to give us your articulated example, when the Ferrari 296 there, he is one of the rookie drivers out there, and that's how you can tell the difference between each of them. But as all these drivers continue to gradually trickle the way round at the moment, we deserve an onboard lap, and we're going to get one to you. But before we do, we need to introduce some new drivers on the grid today, and we do have 2 new pros, 1 new elite and 1 rookie out there, and here is one of your new pro drivers, Malik Bass, who's joined us as this round, and we say hello to Malik, who hasn't been on the grid in a UK Sim Racing series before, as far as my historical anorak tells me, and well, he makes his way around in the Corvette 06 GT3R, and looking very good then. This Corvette gradually proven to be a little bit more popular car compared to previous seasons since it's been on the grid on iRacing, albeit it's one of those cars that doesn't really have a major strength in terms of a particular strength in qualifying or race trim, but the one thing it does very well is it's a very consistent car. If you can extract the pace out of it, you will be able to find that pace actually stays quite steady, much like its GTE counterpart before the GTs were replaced by GT3 machines in the likes of the World Endurance Championship and also in IMSA. But as Bass makes his way down, we do say hello and welcome him to the grid, and we also do see the return of a few regular names. Well, one name in particular some of you may be very familiar with, and I believe he is going to be another pro driver, and it is none other than Empire Motorsports and Nathan Scott in the Porsche 992, and the Empire machines always looking very colourful, and Nathan Scott in a very colourful car there. We also do have a new rookie on the grid as of today, and I believe that rookie, unless I'm very much mistaken, as I do just double check, is Luke Checker, who's out there at the moment. And where is Luke, I hear you ask? Well, at this time, he's currently in 3rd in the rookies. He heads on down there, the number 16 Ferrari 296, new to the grid at UK Sim Racing, and we wish him the best of luck on his debut. And we also have for Full Tilt Motorsport, Michael Gray, and he's in the elite class in the 273, full tilt power all the way he goes in towards turn number 1, and Michael right now looking good out there as he's currently in 6th place. It's a 45.337, drops to 7th 7th there, with Tomlinson Dennis just getting ahead of him. But right now, Gray looking steady, much like many of our drivers. But it's time for a flying lap. Let's jump on board then with Nils Bauckhage, the German driver, as he heads around for his final qualifying lap. So across the timeline in the Ford Mustang, onto the brakes for turn number 1, hard on the anchors there and all the way down to second gear. Nice early apex, holds it tight and now feeds the power in as he keeps it all the way over to the right hand side through the Kinker 2 and in towards NASCAR bend at turn number 3. Holds on the brakes here, all the way down to 81 miles an hour at the apex, carries the speed out, and now heading in towards turn number 4, through the left hand, left hook, through the left-hander, and now into the right-hander, mounting the apex curves there, using the weight of the Mustang to settle the car down. Through 5A he goes, and now flat out, all the way here, through the snake, and up the hill he goes, and this is going to be full commitment. Let's just listen in. Full throttle all the way, and then Sonny on the brakes. He's got to go here as he heads through left-hander, get the weight over the nose, and back of the throttle immediately as he heads in towards Oak Tree Bend. Braking at 125 metres from corner apex, trail braking all the way to the second apex, and now blast the throttle, roll that 5-litre V8 all the way along, and it is a good run out the corner there as he makes his way on the extension all the way out towards Roller Coaster Bend. Now, this is where it's going to be uphill very gradually, but what you'll notice very shortly is he'll keep over to the right, then to siphon the car leftwards under a little bit of braking. Over the rise first, and it's another rise here as he follows the undulations of the road, and now over to the left-hand side, dab the brake on, and now already get the car settled down to second gear, through the right, into left, through the Virginian corkscrew, and now all the way through 15, in towards 16 to set up Hogpen at turn number 17, braking nice and hard there, down to third gear, and now flat out he goes through the final corner, and it's going to blast the line here. He'll keep the car over to the right-hand side, and what's it going to be for Nils Bauckhage as he makes way to the timeline? He is on a personal best in the middle sector, but is it going to be enough here as he crosses the line at 150 miles an hour? It's not enough to dethrone his teammate from pole, but it's enough to keep him second there. A lovely lap, and Stuart Reynolds jumps to third at the death of the session. Is there anybody else out there on a lap? Well, Casper Tunstead parks up there all the way down in 30th place, and I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that is qualifying complete. It's time to head to the grid and see how they all line up for a one and only race today. So as the drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for round number 4 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15, brought to you on iRacing and sponsored by the Virtual Racing School. Pole position has gone to the elite man who's taken 2 out of 3 wins this season. It's Daniel Stasuk for NJB Performance. And it's a 1-2 for the team because Nils Bauckhage locks out the front row alongside him. From the 2 German drivers, you then have the Briton of Stuart Reynolds starting third for Fuji Simsport, with Tobias Kruken 4th place there for Solpec Precision Racing. On row at number 3, it's the continuation of elite drives, and we'll have Pavel Dolzal for Paceworks Esports, head of Alberto Gravilli for Effect Simulations. Then it will be Milton Tomlinson Dennis for World of Racing STR Motorsport, starting 7th ahead of Michael Gray, who on his debut has a great performance there in qualifying, no doubt about it, as they all assemble in the pit lane there for what will be the commencement of the formation lap, a full formation lap, and it always starts in the pit lane here at the VIR circuit. So then, from Michael Gray, who starts 8th behind Milton Tomlinson Dennis, the full Tilby Motorsport having a good debut qualifying session. It'll be Sam Derbyshire in the Corvette Z06 for DDK with Race Anywhere. We'll then have Joe Newman starting in 10th place for Altitude 3M Esports, and I believe Sam Derbyshire's team in fact has changed, and we will get that amended. It seems to have reset itself, because I believe he is for Sim Coach. We'll get that double checked in due course, ladies and gentlemen. But then we do come a little bit further down, and starting in 11th place, it'll be James Armstrong for Brabham Motorsport. We then have Ruben Berings. He takes provisional pole position in the, well, in fact, he takes full pole position, I should say, in the AM class. Well done to the DK with Digital Motor Art driver. And in fact, outpacing the pros there does the AM driver. What a brilliant performance from him. And he is ahead of Krista Halzoy, who takes pole position in the pros in 13th place. Then, starting in 14th, well, from one member of the Berings family, it'll be to another, and that'll be Ruben Berings for DDK with Race Anywhere, and in the end, he starts in 14th. We'll then see behind them in 15th place, it'll be Tractix Racing's Daniel Shilcock, has a great qualifying performance there, and the Britons looking strong in McLaren. Simon Bamber starts 16th for Effect Simulations Carbon, and not quite the qualifying points he wanted, and he's got plenty more he needs to do here. And then we have Ryan Davies starting in 17th for Privateer, ahead of James Ibram for Effect Simulations Carbon, with your top 20 being rounded up by Giles Philippetts for DDK with Race Anywhere, and Nathan Scott on his debut for Empire Motorsport. We then have outside the top 20, let's not forget about them. It's Malak Bass, who starts 21st for Max Q Racing, ahead of Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars. Matthew Sheraton starts 23rd for Aztec Racing, ahead of Old Dudes in Cars, Darren Sharples. And then we will have Pigeon Racing Sean Cranny Swash starting in 25th there, third of the AMs. He'll be happy with that, he's moving forward in that Ford Mustang. He'll be in the company of your pole sitter in the rookie class, Alistair Murray. Well done to Alistair, his first pole position of the season for UK Sim Racing Hill, and he'll have just behind him the company of Tom Weston for DDK with Digital Motor Art, and perhaps more prevalently from the rookie driver's perspective, it will be Richard Jones of Slow and Steady Racing. We then have completing your top 30, Simon Oldfield, the Hoof-Hearted, and the privateer Casper Tunstead. Outside the top 30, we've still got more to go. We do have on his debut, third place in the rookies, well done to in qualifying, it's Luke Checker, ahead of Jordan Jones, the privateer. Then on row 17, we've got James Conley in the company of Daniel Pays, with the UK Sim Racing Stewart and the Old Dudes in Cars drivers being separated by 3 attempts. It's then a further half attempt to get to John Davies for the wrong stuff, who hasn't quite had it go the right way today. However, he's going to be in the company of Swansea Gold's Darian Giacovelli. Then we have, starting 37th, Dan Oliver Fox in his ever-reliable Ferrari, in the company of Helder Gonzalez, who did not put in a qualifying lap. Neither did Cy Anthony for UK Sim Racing Price, nor Neil Kenyon, his teammate. They complete your top 40. And last but not least, starting 41st, it is Slow and Steady Racing's Stuart Pearson. 41 drivers, and they're all accounted for as they inch their way around. Well, as Daniel Stasuk continues to make his way on through, we're not too far away, ladies and gentlemen, from going green flag racing, and when we do, it is certainly going to be an absolutely brilliant race. It always is a brilliant race at any circuit we go to, but indeed, it's a brilliant circuit is this Virginia International Raceway, and a circuit that perhaps is not as open to overtakes as some of the other circuits around there. And we can confirm, by the way, and we do apologise for the fact that Sam Derbyshire being listed as racing for DDK Racing Team with Race Anywhere. Indeed, he is part of Team SimCoach, and that is being amended in the background. So if you are wondering why your overlay suddenly updates itself, don't panic. It's not your TV screen, it's not your computer. It is a few team names being adjusted in the background there just to make sure they are correct. This does happen every so often, and well, with those fixes now in place, we can go racing once again, and we're all set and ready to go. Everything's updated, everything's in the right spot, and we should remind you at the top of your screen, you will see the number of laps. You won't, however, see the time remaining in the race. We'll keep you updated on the time. That's one of the limitations of the post-round broadcast format, but don't you worry, we will keep you informed as it all unfolds here at the Virginia International Raceway, and we're not too far away from going green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. And when we do, it is certainly going to be 60 minutes of intense racing action, and Daniel Stasuk will take us away to the green. Can he make it? 3 wins out of 4 this season, and all 3 wins, of course, being the rounds he's attended. Well, it's time for us to find out here in the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15. And it's lights out and away we go as Daniel Stasuk gets the drop on the front of the field, and they roar the way all the way up towards turn 1. It's a good start there from him, but Nils Bauckhage meanwhile being dropped slightly by his teammate, even though they're in communication, I suspect. Stasuk, they're just nailing it. Stuart Reynolds on the back of him, and as they all make their way for the opening corner, Mostar drives safely on through the open apex. Although I say that one car around, that's Michael Gray, who's gone to the grass immediately there. Car pointing in the wrong direction. He's going to try and rejoin, but he's got to wait for the cue to let him through, because right now all the field makes its way through the horseshoe. But as they all come in towards left hook, well, right now all the drives close together. Most of them surviving the opening few corners. Very well done indeed. Ruben Berings has fallen a bit further back as there's contact between Berings, and that is Daniel Shilcock who's gone around. Daniel Shilcock ejected stage right from our camera, and Ruben Berings carries on there. I'll try and see what happened exactly between them. Sim coaches Sam Derbyshire, meanwhile under pressure here from Altitude 3M Esports is Joe Newman. Squeeze him a little bit. Newman backs off there, flash a light saying, I'm not happy about that. And right now Sam Derbyshire, I think, saying, I couldn't care less because I'm chasing after James Armstrong, who's had a laser fast start. And well, Armstrong there already up into 8th place, 3 places gained. But as all the drivers crusade their way in towards Oak Tree, side by side goes Casper Brotner versus Matthew Sheraton. Sheraton on the outside. Is there enough space? There is for them to coexist, but Sheraton had to back off there. And well, he knew if he tried to carry any more speed, he would have ended up into Oak Tree if it was still there. But on to the backstretch they go, and as they do, everyone calms down. Leader of the rookie class has changed as well. Alistair Murray took pole position, but it's Richard Jones who leads for Slow and Steady Racing. And can Jones finally land that win that's eluded him over the opening 3 rounds? He's had bad luck in all 3 rounds so far, even though he has been right up there in terms of leading pace. Well, right now as he heads over the crest and in towards the right hand, are still running the special livery from Fuji there. And well, that lovely Slow and Steady Racing that livery, I can tell you that. They haven't paid me to say that. I'm saying that just on the basis of how beautiful it is. And as they roar the way down, right now Richard Jones under huge pressure as they come towards the end of the opening lap. But after one lap complete, Daniel Stasuk leads in the elite and overall ahead of Nils Bauckhage, his teammate. Then we've got Stuart Reynolds in third, followed by Tobias Druken, followed by Pavel Dolzau, that's your top 5. Alberto Gravelli is in 6th, the winner of Brands Hatch, ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis. Then we have James Armstrong, Sam Darlashit and Joe Newman. It's an all-elite top 10. In 11th, you have Krista Halsoy, your pro leader. Brilliant start from the Corvette Z06 driver, and right now trying to pull away a little bit further, but he's got the leader of Brett Berings right behind him. The DDK with Race Anywhere driver continues to put some pressure on. Simon Bamber's in 13th, Ruben Berings is in 14th, and Ryan Davies wraps up your top 15. Meanwhile, we said about Richard Jones leading in the rookie class, and your rookie top 3 or top 5. Jordan Jones is your third place man. We've lost Alistair Murray on our cameras. In fact, there is Alistair Murray, and then Jordan Jones is the third place man behind him. And we then have Luke Checker in 4th in the Ferrari 296. He's had a reasonable start. And then we have John Davies for the wrong stuff. He's doing things right at the moment. He's gaining some places early on as they continue on this second tour of the circuit under race conditions. The only drivers that had a dismal start so far is Michael Gray. It all went sideways coming on through turn at number 1. We're not sure he was aided in his adventure. Alternatively, if he just made a mistake of his own volition, we will try and get a replay of that when we can. But right now, Michael Gray's got to try and find a way through the field. As Daniel Shilcock, meanwhile, well, he's under a bit of pressure here from John Davies as they power the way down the back stretch. And John Davies, the rookie driver, might be trying to make a move here very shortly on the pro driver. And Shilcock definitely, after his scuffle with Ruben Berings, I think there's going to be a bit of frustration there that he's got to try and get out of his mind as the Track 6 Racing driver carries on. And we say hello to NLK Racing, who are cheering on Team Track 6 in the Twitch chat. But as we also say hello to Stuart Pearson there, all the drivers right now seemingly settling down for a brief moment as further on back, Darren Sharples nestled firmly onto the rear of Dan Oliver Fox. And the Ferrari driver right now is not giving it away at all. He doesn't have to be fair. And if you're sat there right now wondering, well, these drivers are in different classes, do they gain in the overall points? No, they don't. However, there's no expectation for a driver of a lower or higher class to give way to another driver, albeit Oliver Fox there deciding to give way, and I think that's tactical to let Sharples go on through, and Sharples will naturally get towards John Davies' thought process and help him out. Now, we have had an incident for Michael Gray that's happened. He's been towed to the pits. We will try and get a replay of that when we can. He might be our first retirement of the day, depending if they can get that car repaired. But right now, the Simon Oldfield machine, it's quite a comical one, and I don't mean it in terms of life and that Simon Oldfield, but in the fact that it's a lovely livery then. It reminds me of the comic book exclamations in terms of Kapow and R. Well, right now, he's going to be saying Kapow for the simple reason he's where he started this race, 29th overall and 5th in the pro class, in the rookie class in fact, and as he powers his way along, right now Simon Oldfield looking quite happy out there as he carries on his way, and we look to those class standings. He's chasing after Daniel Pace, who is the best part of 2 seconds up the road, but Oldfield is creating a bit of a queue of cars behind him, as you can see there, because that behind him is your 6th place driver in the AM class, and that is James Connolly, and he's got Neil Kenyon for close company, and Connolly and Kenyon have been teammates previously, but right now I think they're going to be stubbing each other's toes. They come out, in fact, Neil Kenyon there having to run a little bit wide as James Connolly having a bit of a difficult run, and Simon Oldfield keeping them behind as, oh, there's a change. That's Jordan Jones deciding to let some drives go. Has he picked up a slowdown, or is this just a decision of essentially backing off and not getting involved in anybody else's race? Well, if Jordan Jones is doing that, he's got to be mindful he's costing himself a lot of time by doing that. I think that's a slowdown he's had to serve, because immediately how much time he's lost, and Luke Checker is caught right up to the back of him. So right now, Luke Checker is on the attack here as they roll their way out a roller coaster. Fastest laps are coming in from our drivers, more laps are being accrued, and what we can see now is already our leading drivers in the elite class into the 45s, snugly down to low 45s, whereas the drivers in the other classes now starting to push the 46s in the pros, 47s in the AMs or the high 46s, and in the rookie class right now it's the 48s and 47s that seem to be the theme of the day. But of course a lot of the drivers here all tucked in behind each other, as that's going to be a deep run there from Daniel Shilcock. Luke Checker tries to poke his nose in onto Jones, and Jones simply go, no, you can't do that. And I think there Checker decides, okay, perhaps a little bit too much, as that's going to be moved up the inside from Daniel Shilcock. The Track 6 Racing driver simply says, I don't mind if I do. And I think Checker's going to be thinking to himself, okay, I've got to just keep it cool here, because now I've got John Davies right behind. They're getting very firm with each other, and well, as they make the way around and on towards the snake, it's going to be John Davies now who looks for an opportunity as we ride on board here with Davies. He's a little bit of a way away from Luke Checker. However, 7 tenths can very quickly close up if Luke finds himself having to be backed onto the back of Shilcock because of the concertina effect. And for John right now, I can tell you one thing, he's a very smart driver. He's got a very good head on him. And I think his focus at this point will be just to take his time with this one. But right now, talking about taking his time, well, Alistair Murray is moving onwards. We ride on board with your rookie leader. He's got ahead of Helder Gonzalez. He's had a little trip wide. Well, in fact, no, hold up a second. It's Richard Jones who's lost the rookie leader. Oh, my mistake. And Alistair Murray's got the rookie lead back over Richard Jones. And with that, I think it's time for us to get some replays of the opening stage of this race and exactly what's happened to a few drivers, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with us and we will be able to get it. And we're going to start with what happened to Michael Gray right at the beginning. Now, this was right at the beginning of the race, and we do look to what happened to Michael Gray in particular, because he had a bit of a nightmare start to this race. They went racing, and as they did, powering their way along, well, what you'll see from Michael Gray here is he tried to go around the outside. Well, he wasn't a free wide on the outside cold tyres, and as he went around, a little bit of tap there, and that was contact with the Mercedes on his inside. Couldn't quite discern who that was. I believe that might have been the car of Tobias Kruken that turned Michael Gray around, and Michael's race very quickly went sideways. We then had a bit of a separate incident from other drivers only moments later, and that was a bit of a nightmare moment for none other than, I believe, Daniel Shilcock. This is what happened for Daniel Shilcock when he came out of left hook, and as he did, battling side by side there. Oh, goodness me, he came in razor hot, and I think that Ruben Berings decided, you know what, if you're going to give me the elbow, I'm going to give you the elbow back. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and that was Darren Sharp who was following suit there. So one of our AM drivers decided to follow in what was the platitude of the pro driver, and well, in the end, both drivers coming off worse for wear. We also had this happen a little bit later to Kasper Tunstead, and well, in fact, you can see the aftermath there. The Peak Sim Racing driver from Denmark made his way out of the snake, or in fact into the snake. It took too much apex curve and it kicked the car to the tyre barrier, so he didn't get away with the run out of turn 5 into 6, and he came off far worse for it. And we also had this happen to Darian Giacovelli. And well, for Giacovelli, he found himself going for a graveyard of cars that was gradually coming back together. Contact there with none other than Stuart Pearson, and Pearson sent him on around. A bit of a frustrating moment there for Giacovelli. And well, those are the big instance of your opening lap. Lap number 2, this was Michael Gray's woes, only getting worse. What exactly happened to Michael Gray here, you ask? Well, he was making his way in towards the roller coaster, and well, for a roller coaster ride, car went straight on there. That looks like brake failure on the front left brakes. The car pulled really hard, and that was his race, and immediately towed to the pit. And then this happened to Richard Jones on lap number 4, the last bit of opening lap drama. In terms of the opening few laps, he was leading the rookie class head of Alistair Murray. Into turn 10, he went, oh, goodness me, that is a big slide there from the BMW M4, and with the Sloan Steady Racing machine hopping and skipping its way back onto the tarmac. But Richard Jones there getting away with what could have been fatal for his race. Well, that definitely goes to show you he was not holding anything back, pushing too hard. Let's head back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. But we do return to your live racing. Still plenty of racing action to come here. Indeed, we're just at the tip of the iceberg, and we look to your race leader here as he makes one around. And right now, Daniel Stasuk is building a queue of cars as he heads down towards the run up the hill. And I say down and up there interchangeably. But as he makes his way along, he's got Nils Bauckhage, still Stuart Reynolds, and Tobias Kruken and Pavel Dolzal behind him. That's a queue of 5. And well, you have to try and think right now, what could he be doing? Because we've normally seen that Stasuk has been the fastest of the drivers. He's normally run away with the proceedings when he's been in a leading position. However, think back to Daytona and how he played it at Daytona. What he did there was he managed his pace. He had everybody behind him essentially run into the pace that he set, and he was doing a lot of fuel saving. Of course, he didn't have anybody to slipstream off of, so he was always at a fuel saving deficit. However, he was able to save enough fuel that in the end his pit stop time was only half a second slower compared to his rivals around him. And what it meant was when they did go racing again, he was then able to get the hammer down and break away and open up a bit of a gap. He does seem to have a bit of an inherent pace advantage, and by trying to use that advantage, that is where he is going to gradually saunter off into the distance, or at least that seems to be his strategy in these races. He's got a lot of pace on tap, he just needs to use it at the right time. And we are expecting, in terms of the number of laps here, ladies and gentlemen, given the fact this is a 60-minute race, that's 60 minutes, and well, we are expecting it to be a grand total of 34 laps approximately, with the pit stops thrown into the mix. And we will keep you abreast as we do move through the race in terms of the rough times and when we can expect those pit stops. But right now, coming back to some battling, and that is not happy battling there, although they've saved themselves. That was Matthew Sheraton on the inside of Casper Brotner. Well, 2 does not go into 1 there for NASCAR Bend, and Nathan Scott says, okay, I'll take a freebie. Well, he moves up there, and Nathan Scott now up into 6th place place in the Pro class as Malik Bass goes sideways into the barrier there, and I think that was contact with the Mercedes of Casper Brotner we briefly saw, and Malik Bass was making great progress and now has regressed all the way down the order, so it's getting a little bit temperamental between some drivers. And as we come back to this lower field, well, Bass is going to return to the circuit, and as he does, well, we can see there your rookies now starting to come on through, and well, still for Jordan Jones, he's chasing after Richard Jones. They're not related, as I understand it. Oh my good lord, and that is Bass and Conley coming together. Malik Bass goes sliding across the grass. Where's James Conley? Well, he's got a little bit further along. He goes past the tyre barrier there. They both avoid it becoming a nightmare moment, but those two drivers collecting each other and going too wide up the rise in towards turn 7, 8 and 9 is very difficult, because you've got to have a lot of faith and also a lot of trust in the driver who's next to you, and you've both got to be ready to back out of it compared to what you would do if you were single file. Well, neither driver went to back out there, and I think that's going to be the continued theme, because we ride on board here with Nathan Scott for Empire Motorsport as he continues to chase after Matthew Cheverton, roaring the way down to Hogpen Corner, and as they come out of the right-hander, well, right now it's close but not close enough. They're fighting over 18th place, or what for them is 5th place in the Pro class, and we'll roaring the way onwards here. The 113 Porsche right now, a very feisty car is the Porsche, a very well-mannered car in the corners, but you do need to drive it right on the limit to get the most out of it going onto those straights, because the balance of performance normally dictates the Porsche is a little bit weaker towards its top end versus its rivals, unless it takes a lot of rear wing off the car. But of course, you want the rear wing to give yourself the stability over that rear end, plus the fact you naturally have a rear engine rear wheel drive, so all the mass is located over the rear axle, as is the design of most Porsche racing cars for the best part of multiple decades. The only exception in the last 2 decades, of course, being the Porsche 911 GTE machine, the RSR, where mid-engine rear-wheel drive to comply with GTE regulations. As Nathan Scott makes his way onwards, the 113 driver here right now just measuring the pace versus Matthew Cheverton, half a second between the two of them, and these two just trading lap times as they head into turn 7, 8 and 9, and Nathan Scott here dealing with the dirty areas he heads into turn 10. Plenty of open apex curve there, lovely run on through, and Nathan Scott right now definitely in a happy place as he gives chase. But coming on out, we say hello to Iron Aces there, who's enjoying the commentary. Thank you, Iron. Very happy to hear that, and I hope you're doing well, good sir. And as we look to Tobias Kruk, and meanwhile, going all the way up inside the top 10 again, well, it is the big logjam right now of front-engine rear-wheel drive cars, all queuing up behind a mid-engine rear-wheel drive Acura. And, well, you can see 2 Mustangs, then 2 Mercedes, 2 by 2 they come. This isn't Noah's Ark, this is VIR, and as they roar the way around, well, right now, Tobias Kruk and Pavel Dolzal, they both have had shots at podiums. They've both landed podiums in previous rounds of the championship, but neither one has yet to take a win, and both very eager to try and do so. However, how will it play out here between the top 5? Because you can see Milton Tomlinson Dennis, who was the man who made the contact. In fact, we can now correct that, given we've seen the livery on the side of the car. He was the man who made contact with Michael Gray. A very interesting one there, the three-way contact, and we're not going to portion the blame with any of the free tries. Something tells me it might be considered to be a bit of a racing incident with a slight portion of blame, just based on what we saw, for the simple reason 3 wide into the opening corner, very challenging on cold tyres, and being able to give that awareness. Somebody's going to get pinched at some point, but that's for the stewards to look at, not for us to look at. We only have the one camera angle available. Change of position almost in place there. Jordan Jones under pressure from Luke Checker, and this is for 3rd place in the rookies. That's for 30th place right now as they come on around from turn number 1, and it does look as though Checker right now having thoughts about making the move, but not quite close enough to make it happen, and find himself in that outside into turn 1. It's very hard then unless you go for a cutback. Whether it be in low-speed machines or GT3 machines, this circuit is not the most obliging for overtakes. It does require a lot of commitment and to be quite forceful. But I think the number 16 driver here, he's just trying to show himself at the moment and trying to get into Jordan's head. And the idea is the more he does that, the more Jordan focuses less on the road ahead of him and more on the road behind him and what's looming in his rearview mirror. And that's when the mistakes happen. We've seen that happen to a number of drivers this season across our classes. And I think that's going to be the game plan, but Jordan Jones right now not wilting, as Richard Jones then meanwhile goes a little bit wide coming out of turn number 10, and that is going to give Darren Sharples a bit more enthusiasm to want to get through, because right now it is the AM driver who finds himself engrossed in a pack of rookies around him, and the old dude in cars driver flashing his lights there, trying to say to Jones in front of him, look, I want you out my way, you're holding me up. Richard Jones, however, doesn't have to step aside. It's just that Darren Sharples is essentially trying to communicate via flashing light Morse code. It would be more valuable if you stepped aside, but right now, nobody's stepping aside there as Casper Brotner goes around the outside of Nathan Scott, and that was coming all the way out the final corner. Absolutely brilliant side-by-side battles between the two of them, and, well, I believe that all started going into roller coaster. Can we get a replay of that? Well, we will hold off a second because Sean Cranley swashbacks off of the back of this, and I get the feeling the AM driver Pigeon Racing right right now is probably thinking, I'm quite happy in my second place in class. I don't want to lose it because of 2 pros fighting around me, and wherefore he'd rather watch. And I do envy Sean Cranley-Swash because right now he's got the popcorn seat view. In fact, we're going to ride on board with him here and get a bit of popcorn seat action ourselves as the Pigeon Racing 117 stays nice and close and continues to watch it all unfold in front of him. And we can definitely tell Nathan Scott has got the bit between his teeth. And whilst he hasn't been on the grid in recent seasons, well, he's back here, and Nathan Scott a firm favourite amongst the community. And right now, absolutely throwing everything at this. As off camera, Darren Sharples has dropped behind Jones and Checker. He's had a bit of a nightmare moment, I believe, an off track, and that has released the 2 rookie drivers ahead of him. You can see Cranley-Swash falling back a little bit here as they head through turns 8 and 9. Scott so close to the back of Brockner as they head on through. And in fact, I think we can actually get the on board with Nathan Scott here. Yes, we can. And the 113 driver absolutely glued to the back of that Mercedes. However, now on a straightaway, this is where you're going to see the flat 6 of the Porsche versus the 6.3 litre V8 of that Mercedes. There's going to be a difference. And look at how that gap is gradually becoming pronounced. To be fair, Nathan Scott had an absolute ham sandwich of an exit out of Oak Tree Corner, completely bungled it over the exit curb, and that cost him a lot of traction. But there's the difference. The fact that he's only gaining very little by little in 6th gear right at the top end, and that gives Casper Rotner all the confidence he needs to know that if he can keep maintaining these exits, he's not going to lose that position. He's had to fight his way past the Porsche that's very capable in the corners. How on the straights, his Mercedes has got the legs just to gradually pull away. But again, notice the difference in lines there as they come out of turn number 17. The Mercedes, Brotner has to let it go deep for the first part of Hog Pen because otherwise he'll understeer on the exit of 17A. Meanwhile, Nathan Scott can be much tighter on Apex approach because he's got much more rotation in his Porsche by comparison. And these cars, their natural behaviours and the setups really being shown here. And right now, Casper Brotner has set that Mercedes up for straight line grunt to make sure that once he gets places, he's safe. But now he's got a problem, and in front of him, that is Ryan Davies, who's just returned from an off-track at turn number 1. He dropped a couple of positions, and Davies right now really frustrating Brotner here as they come from left into right because he's becoming a little bit of a rolling barricade. Albeit that's not to call him a chicane, but Nathan Scott right now being given an opportunity. He's going to be so close as they head up towards turn 9, and here goes Brotner. He knows he's got to get this done. He's going to come Nathan Scott as well. It's going to be 2 wide as they go. Brotner on the outside. It's going to be Davies on the inside. Keep it clean, lads, and they do, and Casper Brotner gets on through. That's a lovely driving there from the old duty cars driver, and he then squeezes his way on through. And well, I think Ryan Davies, they're trying to help out his teammate Nathan Scott, but in the end, the 2 Empire Motorsports driver could not conquer the old dude in the Mercedes as they roar the way around. And well, Sean Cranley-Swash meanwhile tucks onto the back of this, flashes lights as if to say to him, right, you've had all your fun. Can you politely get a move on? Because I've got a problem behind me, and that's Tom Weston. You can see the DDK race anywhere Mercedes in the rear of the picture and getting very close. But we'll see what happens between them as they carry on. And in fact, as they roll the way onwards, I think we are going to get a bit of a replay of what happened earlier on between none other than Nathan Scott and Casper Brotner when they did have their banging battle for what was that position, and Casper Brotner got initially ahead. And here is a quick replay of exactly how that played out. Now, this was back when Nathan Scott was ahead. They were making their way up towards turns 13 and 14. Brotner on the inside, Nathan Scott on the outside. Oh, my good Lord. That was very tight. They were still side by side coming through a roller coaster. A little bit of rub between the 2 of them and coming down into a hog pen. Casper Brotner having to mount the curb and then some, and Nathan Scott not having enough confidence there to force the car back on the inside. I think if he had, they'd both be in the trees right now. That was brilliant racing between them, and we saw the rest as it was good sign to history, but fantastic battling. What happened meanwhile to Ryan Davies to bring him then back into this battle? Here was your McLaren driver a bit further up the road before they arrived. He headed into turn 1, lunged out the inside, and that was James Ibrahim who made contact in Lamborghini Huracan. He stopped, to be fair, to make sure he didn't make the collision worse, but he then decided to drive on, I suspect, because of the fact he was parked in the road and didn't want to trigger a further incident. And then we got to see that wonderful battle between these 3 as they made the way through the snake. But let's head back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. So as we come back to all the racing action, it continues here, and we are almost on to lap number 12 of expected 34 laps. So we are the best part of a third of the way through. We are 20 minutes into the race duration now of 60 minutes, and Daniel Stasuk continues to lead here, and the top 5 stay comfortably together. Nobody at the moment is falling away, and well, is this just Stasuk controlling the pace, or is the NJB Performance driver finding that he's met his match today? Well, that's the big question mark we have at the very front of the field. They're all comfortably close. And well, from them we look back to Matthew Cheverton, who's chasing after Giles Philippepps. And Matthew Cheverton's BMW M4 definitely has got a few bruises on it. However, he's now going to try and make a clean pass here up the inside of Giles Philippepps down the start-finish straight. And it's going to be very close. It's going to be a drag race all the way through. And we do know these two machines are both straight line monsters in there and right. And Matthew Cheverton there on the inside. And a lovely move under braking gets it done. And the 390 driver Aztec Racing definitely seems to be very tuned in with that BMW. However, Philippepps has not given up just yet. He's going to go for the switchback there through two in towards NASCAR Bend. But it's all for naught there, or is it? Because Cheverton goes deep. And Philippepps now on the inside in towards the left hook. He's going to be there. Cheverton turns in. Can he get to the outside? He can to the inside of 5. They're going to give a rub. And that's going to send Philippepps sideways. They make it through. Philippepps goes to the grass. He gets it back on. He has to cut a corner to do so. And well, in the end, it gets a little bit elbows out there, but both drivers keeping it on the circuit just about. And Giles Philippepps, I think at this point, is going to be fuming under his helmet. But also, if you're thinking afterwards, you know what, we made it through that, despite the fact you don't normally go too wide through those corners all in one sequence. Casper Brotner, meanwhile, just go look at the back of this and think, okay, if you're all going to fight, can I now have a bit of fun with you, because I've got Nathan Scott trying to follow me through. And well, the Mercedes driver here in the number 11 right now, he is not making his way around at elderly pace, I can tell you that. And the old man puns are going to keep on coming until the sun is done, because there he makes one through, and it looks like Philippepps has got a slowdown, and that would be for the cut of the apex going onto Snake. And that's very unfortunate for Giles Philippepps, because I think he'll feel as though he didn't deserve the slowdown, given he had to take to what was the cutting of that corner in order to get the car pointed straight. However, the automated iRacing system has awarded a slowdown penalty, and he's just served it. So that's why he's given the position up to Casper Brotner, if you're wondering why he started going a little bit slowly. He hasn't got an issue with the car, he's just having to burn a time penalty. But roaring his way down in towards 17, he'll be now back up to full pace. But as they roar the way onwards and in towards turn number 1, well, all these drivers still pushing each other up and onwards in towards the next corner. And we can see now Nathan Scott making a move here on Giles Philippepps, and the Porsche driver here enjoying that Porsche just as much as Casper Brotner's enjoying the Mercedes in front. Philippepps is going to go back up the inside, but the Porsche's got the legs under the brakes, and that is the Delta. But riding the way around, and we do say hello to Nathan Scott there in the YouTube chat, who says a firm favourite is a bit of a stretch with a big smile. And well, Nathan, I can tell you one thing, you're one of the favourites out there. I'm not allowed to have favourite drivers in a given series, but it's always good to see the Empire Motorsport machines out there, and it's always good to see you on the grid in all the series I've covered over the years. I promise you that. As we also say hello there to Milton Tomlinson Dennis. Speaking of him, currently running in 6th place, and the 192 driver here not quite on the pace of the drivers in front of him. However, enjoying a very lonely but happy 6th place, and right now he can see the top 5 off in the distance, but what he can also see as he looks in his rear view mirror, he's got 3.2 seconds to the Joe Newman crew, and that is Joe Newman, Alberto Grilli and James Armstrong there as they all run together. And Sam Derbyshire, the sim coach driver, I think he would like to be a bit of an actor in this battle, but the 666 machine right now is unfortunately not possessed by the devil when it comes to pace today, but instead he's there in 10th place at the moment and just trying to find a way to get involved. Now, whilst all this is playing out, we have had some changes further down. In fact, I believe Giles Philippepps has had a big off at Oak Tree Corner. He's just rejoining now, and as he does so, he's joining back in 25th place. We look at the car standings, that's going to demote him all the way down into 9th. Well, for Giles, it is a race that's going from good to bad to worse right now. I think he's going to need to try and get his head down here and think about what he can do. Strategy-wise, meanwhile, looking to the bigger picture, because the battles have calmed down for a brief moment, although whenever I normally say that, all the drives start to erupt, it just seems to be a coincidence. But what it does seem at the moment is we are looking at these fuel tanks going to the best part of what will be 20 to 25 laps here, depending on how much fuel saving is going in from the drivers. We're not seeing anybody pull the strategic manoeuvre yet. However, those who do, well, you're expected to be a driver further down the order, just because we've seen how challenging overtaking is here. And with that challenge in mind, the problem will be that if you pit from the lead or you pit from the front of the field, and let's say, for example, your race leader here, Daniel Stasuk, well, with the pit time, we would expect he would come out in approximately 15th to 18th place, and that would put him right in amongst a load of cars where he's then got to try and pick his way through. However, he won't be doing that right now. Instead of what he'll be doing is just focusing on leading the distance and, well, carrying on his way as best he can, and he knows how to. He's not unfamiliar to this position, to be fair. And, well, with his teammate right behind him, they'll be looking to make it a 1-2 to carry on their championship lead. And well, everything's going sunny side up at the moment, but will their places be poached or not? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because otherwise everything will be scrambled towards the end of the race. And well, some excellent puns there, and we're not going to keep doing those either. I can't help myself, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologise. But from our drivers making the way down through turn 16 into 17, and around they go. Well, right now they come to the end of lap number 15, and onto a 16th one they turn. And right now this top 5 all pushing each other onwards here, and it's fascinating, all lapping within 1 to 2 tenths each other, lap after lap, and this is brilliant consistency. Pavel Dolzau has fallen back a little bit over the last couple of laps, but not to the point where he's fallen out of this pack. I wonder whether he's just pulled himself back a little bit further to protect the tyres, but also to give himself more visibility of this top 4. And you're probably thinking, well, why would he do that? Well, as we jump on board, the importance is here. As you can see, right now, when they go through these tighter sequences onto the straights, everybody forms a line. Now, that's normal in racing, everyone wants to tow, but why, if you're at the back of this group, do you want to be a little bit further back? Well, as they come out of the final corner, they'll all be on the single line, but what Pavel might be thinking here is he wants to be able to see if anybody in the middle of this pack defects the pit lane, and he might be thinking if one driver comes into the pits, he will follow them. He'll wait to see who reacts when. And in fact, speaking of reactions, we have got a bit of a movement in the pit lane, and we have got our first 2 stoppers. It's Richard Jones and Charles Philippets who've coming in. Charles, of course, having the difficulty in the pro class with the instant at Oak Tree Corner. Richard Jones makes his way on down here, and he was at the time battling for the win in the rookie class, but he's called it early, as has Casper Tunstead. So we are seeing some early pit stops here, but again, as we said earlier, drivers who are further down the order or drivers who've got nothing to lose. Stuart Pearson comes on in, and as they all make the way down, well, we're going to have Charles Philippets making his way out of the pit lane. He's already served his pit stop and taken the fuel, and here we go. Meanwhile, let's come back to the front of the pro class. We haven't talked about this man for some time, and I think we need to, given the fact that he is the Track 6 racing driver. We have got the NLK racing crew there in the Twitch chat who are cheering him on. It's Krista Halsey, who right now is roaring away in the lead of the pro class by 5.6 seconds over Ruben Berings. And there is Ruben Berings in the Porsche 992, and we're trying to find a way to get involved in that battle. However, will it come? We will have to wait and see, because right now the pace delta between the two of them, it's in the favour of Krista Halsey. But then again, this for Ruben Berings could be all about just saving some fuel early on, and he may have an ace up his sleeve later on. Updating the pit lane, Stuart Reynolds, who was in that top 5 pack. He was your 3rd place runner overall and in elite class. He is into the pit lane. There he's in the Ford Mustang, not changing the tyres, it would seem. Just fuel's going in. He's happy with the compound on the car. He's just going to go straight back out there and deliver what he can. So the car being serviced, and that will be one to watch in terms of where he fits in. But that's a big gamble from Reynolds, because he will be coming out right in amongst a good portion of the lower field, in amongst the pros and the AMs in particular, as we do look to 2nd place rookie driver of none other than Jordan Jones. And while Alistair Murray is starting to pull away with this, he is 8.5 seconds up the road, but for Jones, it's just another day in the office here, and I think he'll be feeling as though that 2nd place is gradually coming more and more in his favour. But we'll have to see as Luke Checker, meanwhile, still keeping the 2nd place rookie driver honest as they roll on around. Further back, we've got a bit of side-by-side battle for a brief moment. That is Stuart Pearson backing off with Dan Oliver Fox going past him, and Oliver Fox has also taken a pit stop there, and that's going to be a very bold run through from, I believe, that's Ruben Berings having to pick his way past the 6th place rookie driver, and Berings being the 2nd place pro driver at the moment. Well, he's had to really be forceful given the fact the traffic's come at a difficult time, but sometimes that's what they've got to do. And right now, with these pit stops starting to play out, it is going to be even more interesting. The more pit stops we see, it's going to shuffle the field up, and where will they all come out is the question. James Ibram here, well, he's now trying to pick his way past Stuart Pearson, does so, and in the Effect Simulations Lamborghini Huracan, it's definitely been a little bit of a challenging season for the man who is a master of the prototypes, no doubt about that. We saw that in the UK Sim Racing Multiclass League Season 3, in his season-long battle with his teammate, Voistin Hereford, and in the end, it was so close between the two of them, you could cut the tension with a knife, albeit great friends off the circuit, great teammates on the circuit, and one of the friendliest championship battles we've ever seen in the UK Sim Racing Series, and indeed, that's a very high bar to beat in terms of friendly championship battles. But I can tell you that James Ibram right now, from an LMP2 machine to a GT3 machine, still a bit of a learning experience out there, but the elite driver learning with every lap turned. It's so great to see. We're on his way out of turn 1 in towards turn number 2. We've got to Sean Cranny Swash, who finds himself being passed there by Ryan Davies. Change of overall position, not class position. And right now the Ford Mustang driver Pigeon Racing with a 1.5 second gap over Tom Weston. He's just trying to keep that gap open as much as he possibly can. and these two keeping each other honest at the moment, and there's nothing between them in terms of lap time. And in fact, can we get the time deltas from the previous laps? We might be able to. Give us a brief moment. I think we can flash those up on screen in terms of the lap time history, and well, if we do look to those class times, we will see those lap times between them, and well, in fact we won't quite, unfortunately. It does seem as though our lap time board is being a little bit erroneous there, but what we can tell you is over the last 3 laps they have had an average of no more than a 10th either way between them. If Sean Cranny Swash has been faster by a 10th on one lap, then it has been Tom Weston who's responded the lap afterwards, and vice versa. More going on in the elite class here, and we do have the battle for 6th, what was 7th until the pit stop started, of Joe Newman, Alberto Crivelli and James Armstrong all together as we ride on board with the number 47 of James Armstrong for Brabham Motorsport. A driver who's been highly decorated in his UK Sim Racing Championship career. Runs a little bit wide there, coming out of pen. Oh, goodness, he has to catch the car, and I think that might just be the dirty air and a little bit of hypnosis at the wheel. And what we mean by that is a simple reason. I think he's so used to running so close behind Alberto Crivelli and Joe Newman that in the end he's just forgotten he's in a 3-car pack, and therefore the car's going to understeer a little bit more than it normally would through the dirty air. But Armstrong being able to recover the car there, that could have been far, far worse, but it wasn't, thankfully, and we're falling back to 9/10 off the back of Crivelli's car. He'll now need to just exert a little bit more pace if he wants to close up. However, we'll have to wait and see what he can do, or in fact he might use this as an opportunity to back off a little bit and consider making the pit stop there, as he has got to get the grass off the left-hand side tyres in particular. It normally takes half a lap around here, but already does seem to be starting to get a bit more comfortable. The gap now down to 8/10 as they've charged away out of Snake, under the Gantry Bridge, and up towards turns 7, 8 and 9 they go. But on lap number 19 for our leading drivers at this point, more pit stops unfolding out there. Tom Weston, meanwhile, just been passed by Daniel Shilcott, the Track 6 Racing driver, squeezing his way through for NASCAR Bend. And Weston falling down to 19th place overall. And well, no major battles at the moment. It's all about the pit stops here. And speaking of pit stops, here's a significant one. Jordan Jones in from the lead of the rookie class. Alistair Murray's also in. I would presume that Alistair Murray's going to come down off the jacks, or at least the fuel pump, much quicker. Yes, he is. And he makes his way along. Where is Luke Checker in all this? Well, Luke has taken his pit stop, but he is coming all the way through Hogpen Corner now. So it's going to be Alistair Murray who retakes the rookie lead. But who's it going to be in second? Will it be Jones? Will it be Checker? Well, Jordan Jones is making his way out of the pit lane right now. It's a bit of a run as he makes his way along. Where is Luke Checker? We'll have to see. We've lost him for a brief moment, but we rematerialise from the ether. Yes, he does. And in the end, he does get ahead of Jones. Luke Checker has leapt ahead of Jones for second place in the rookie class. And how's it been done? It's been done by the amount of time spent stationary. A second was the difference between the two of them, and Luke Checker using strategy to leap ahead, and will pitting only 2 laps earlier, but he's made that gap. But Jordan Jones is right there with him now as they come out of left hook and in towards the right end of turn number 5, and Luke Checker at this point is thinking to himself, okay, I've made the plays, now I've got to hold it. Richard Jones, by the way, is only a further 1.2 seconds behind. So we have got a brilliant three-way battle for the final 2 spots of the rookie podium here. John Davies, meanwhile, is 7 seconds off of this. If these drivers fight each other hard, we could see them all suddenly close up, and that is going to lead to some fireworks here in the closing stages. We are on lap number 20 for our leaders. We are over the halfway distance now. We are approximately at about 35 minutes into this race, and therefore we are expecting those pit stops to come sooner rather than later. We've got a lot of drivers in the pit lane right now, from the middle to front of the Pro Pack, plus also the head of the AM Pack, Sean Cranny Swash, Sharples and Weston all in. Well, the rookies, they've all served their pit stops for the most part. In fact, they all have served their pit stops. They've all been very good in pitting nice and early, and the rookie drivers right now all pushing each other onwards. But the one thing Luke Checker does have to his advantage, he's got the AM driver of Daniel Pays right in front of him, and the old dudes in cars BMW M4, for its straight line speed, he'll pull Luke Checker along and just give him a little bit more confidence. However, in the corners, this is where the Ferrari of Luke is going to be much stronger, and the problem will be that BMW is now going to feel as though it's holding him up a little bit, so he's going to have to try and find a way through here as they exit out turn number 17. He's going to have a good run into the pits, does duck one of your leaders. I believe that is race leader overall, Daniel Stasuk, coming in, and he brings Nils Bauckhage, Tobias Kruken and Pavel Dolzal all into the pit lane at once. Now the question we've got is, where's Stuart Reynolds going to be in all this? Well, he is behind Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and in fact Stuart Reynolds has had an absolute nightmare. He's dropped a long way back. Where on earth has it all gone wrong for Stuart Reynolds? I'm not quite sure. We're going to try and understand. Has he had an off track somewhere? No, he's just fallen behind Milton Tomlinson Dennis, and in fact his pit stop was 4 seconds longer was Reynolds compared to Tomlinson Dennis, so Tomlinson Dennis has jumped up. Stuart Reynolds has fallen a long way back. I'm not losing my mind here because Stuart Reynolds was in third place when he came in, but something has gone so very wrong. I think he's just found traffic in a long pit stop. As our leaders come out of the pit lane, there's the damage. Daniel Stasuk back into lead. Nils Bauckhage, meanwhile, second. And then Pavel Dalzau and Tobias Kruken. And nowhere to be seen is Milton Tomlinson Dennis. There he is suddenly. And there's Stuart Reynolds. There's Alberto Crivelli. And Milton Tomlinson Dennis has jumped up to 5th place. Well, he's absolutely nailed this on strategy, has the Mercedes driver. And I think he sprung a surprise. And now can Reynolds find a way to get back ahead of him and salvage a top 5. It's the Fury Simsport right now, driver. I think he's going to be absolutely frustrated as we see that Thomas and Dennis Wilton under a little bit of pressure runs very wide and takes the rallycross exit out of NASCAR bend. He'll get away with that once or twice, but he can't keep doing it. And Reynolds right now will be trying to exert a little bit more pressure. But conversely, Daniel Stasuk, what we said about his magic he normally does on the opening stint in terms of just saving the pace, he was the shortest pit stop time of anybody in that top 5. 17.8 seconds versus his teammate of Nils Baukhage's 18.4. 18.6 for Pavel Dalzau, who's ahead of Tobias Kruken, as you pointed out, so the two Mercedes drivers swap places. I don't know what Daniel in that Acura is doing in the pit stop. I don't know how he does it, but I can tell you one thing right now. He is a fuel whisperer out there, and he's back in the lead, even though the drivers behind him, in theory, should have been saving the fuel, unless his pace advantage is such whereby essentially he's backing off to run at the pace of the drivers behind him, and then he goes full tap when he comes out the pit lane. That's the only thing I can think of here, is that he just seems to have about 2 to 3 tenths a lap on tap when he wants it, and he's turning it off on the opening stint, much like we saw at Daytona, in order to save all the fuel to then go full attack in the second stint, and that's where he's able to pull off this magic. But we will see where he's able to do that over the remainder of the distance. And that's not to belittle the rest of the field. That's what happens when you have a driver who just has a little bit more pace, and they know it. If they recognise it, they control the race, and if they get it right, they can do this where they just simply stay one step ahead of the competition. But right now, for Stuart Reynolds, he wants to try and put a step ahead of Tomlinson Dennis, and what you see behind there, that is the Slow and Steady Racing rookie machine of Stuart Pearson, who's just watching right now, and he won't get involved in this because of the blue flag situation, but he'll be thinking, okay, just keep an eye on it. You might pick up some time, you might even pick up some lines. But drivers roaring the way on around, and we do say hello there to Tobias Kruken, who's known as Sky King in the YouTube chat, who says that he overfueled by 3 litres, and that explains why he's dropped behind Dalzau, and indeed that would be the delta there. It would be worth a seconds of time, and well, that is all the difference. But Tomlinson Dennis right now, let's focus what's on our screen, and we ride on board and look back from the rear of the 192 machine from St Vincent's, and well, the World of Racing STR Motorsport driver under a lot of pressure from a Ford Mustang that surely can't look for a move here. No, it can't, but it is very eagerly thinking about making a move, and well, looking intensely there, and I think if he was any closer he would literally pull in on the rear wing of the Mercedes. But through Oak Tree they go, both drivers sliding a little bit loose there in this battle for 5th place in the class, and as the elite drivers roar the way onwards, it's proven very challenging between them. And the thing for Stuart Reynolds here, he can get as close to the line, but he's got to find a way to get close. But he's got to find a way to get him on the brakes. But the downside of the Ford Mustang is one of the weaker cars in the current balance of performance on its braking performance. Has a risk of overheating the brakes, and also a very heavy car by comparison to its rivals. And that means to stop it, you really have to be aggressive. Or if you do that and you don't brake earlier, you do end up applying a lot of ABS, and that in turn overheats the brakes, it overheats the tyres, and it means these braking zones become much more challenging as the race goes on. He's really got to try and protect the brakes, has Stuart Reynolds, but he's also got to stay close. It's a double-edged sword here because he's got so much grunt on the straights, much like the Mercedes in front of him, but he just doesn't have the stopping power in the corners, and that seems to be the delta between the two of them, at least at this stage. Further back, Sam Derbyshire still in 10th place in the elite class. He's right behind James Armstrong. He's trying to make a move here. Sam Derbyshire's had a very static race, it has to be said. After losing a place at the start, he hasn't really moved forward from that point onwards. And right now, the Corvette driver all on the rear, the Brabham Motorsport McLaren, and the Sim Coach team will be encouraging him on here, looking to take on one of the previous GT3 champions at UK Sim Racing for multiple seasons, if my memory serves me correctly. Run his way through it left into right, and I'm sure James Armstrong's dad, Rob Armstrong, will be cheering him on conversely. And well, right now for Sam Derbyshire, he can stay close, but not close enough to think about a move. Now, in terms of other developments in some of our other classes out there, Sean Cranny-Swash still running in second in the AM class. However, he has gapped Tom Weston by the best part of what is 8 seconds. I believe Weston just not having a happy experience over the course of his pit stop. In fact, a bit of a longer pit stop end to end, and also catching some traffic has been the delta between the two of them. And, well, the leader of the AM class, Ruben Berings, and the Audi R8 Evo 2 LMS machine, well, right now he's absolutely in control as the DDK racing driver. Goes around the outside there of Dan Oliver Fox, who's a lap down in the rookie Ferrari. And, well, Ruben Berings right now is looking absolutely unstoppable. And I don't think right now anyone's going to be able to catch him. The only way they'll do so is if he makes a mistake of his own volition. In the rookie class, it's Alistair Murray, who is in a controlling lead of 10 seconds at this time, as he makes his way up towards turns 7, 8 and 9. And, well, that's a 10-second advantage over Luke Checker, who since his pit stop, where he leapfrogged Jordan Jones by pitting earlier, well, he's been able to break away. He's got Daniel Pays and Malik Bass between himself and Jones. And here is Jordan Jones, who has got Richard Jones behind. It's the battle of the Joneses there, and I believe the two of them are not related. And if either of them are tuning in right now, I'm sure they'll tell me if they are related. But I believe two very separate drivers, but both sharing a common surname. And right now, who is going to be the superior Jones? That is going to be the big question, as we do see the 58 of Jordan making his way around, and Richard meanwhile in the BMW. Well, he's got it on the straights, he hasn't got it in the corners, the difference of the two machines, but both drivers here matching each other lap for lap and pace for pace. But onwards they'll go, and as they do this race winding down a little bit in terms of the intensity at the moment further down the field, and I see Stuart Pearson confirming there in the YouTube chat on the behalf of the Slow and Steady Racing team that Richard Jones and Jordan Jones are not related. Well, right now, bear no relation between these two drivers other than the commonality of both running the Mercedes AMG 2020 machine. Pavel Dozal under big pressure from Tobias Kruken as they come out of the hairpin. Out of Oak Tree they go, and Kruken's so close here and trying to find a way in, albeit on the straights. Notice how that gap opens up. And I wonder whether, in terms of the setups that these two drivers are running, whether Dolzal has decided to optimise his car just a little bit more for what will be straight line speed, whereas Kruken's gone for corner speed and braking. Look at how much he closes up there. Now, there is the natural concertina effect, to be fair, but Kruken just seems to be a world apart. It's almost as if the Solpec Precision Racing 14 has had everything invested into the corners, whereas Dolzal's simply gone, okay, all I've got to do is literally lumber the car around an apex and then put the throttle down. I'll be able to stay clear, because they exit a hog pen corner. Look at the difference between the two. That has actually gone up the gap. It's now up to 41 hundredths of a second versus what it was in the exit of the corner at 3/10 or 30 hundredths, and roaring the way through turn number 1 and out in towards turn number 2. It does seem as though Kruken's got so much in those corners right now, but he just hasn't got enough going onto the stretches to make the difference. Turns in nice and early there coming from NASCAR Bend, and you can see gaining little by little, chiseling away at that gap, hard at his craft, and through into the right hander, but turns in prematurely there, and that's going to cost him a lot of momentum heading through the state. You can see already correcting the car to yoink it back to left to turn in, and that's going to cost him the best part of 2-3 miles an hour as he makes his way on towards turn 7, 8 and 9, and the damage is done. That is a 3/10 gap that's opened up now to 6/10 to Dolzal, and will Tobias Kruken be absolutely kicking himself there. But the problem is he can't let that get into his head, because once he's made that mistake once as a driver, even as an elite driver, you do it once, it unsettles your rhythm. Do it twice, and suddenly you make a habit of it, and that's what the number 14 driver will not want to do any further forward over the remainder of the distance. We can see that Dolzal going around the outside of the Peak Sim Racing machine of Casper Tunstead, and Walter Kruken will tuck into the toe, but he's nowhere near close enough here to really think about it, albeit Tunstead's going to pull into the middle of the road there, not quite sure where to go. Kruken went to tuck into the toe, and I think a bit of a misinterpretation between the two drivers, but no damage comes of it. I think both of them have been wondering what's the other guy doing. But from them, we have had a bit of a change position further down, because we have had the Richard, well, in fact, not a change position, just Richard Jones has got much closer. Jordan Jones and Luke Checker's fallen back behind this. I believe we have had Malik Bass move forward in amongst all this as well. I think Bass has made the move on Luke Checker, and it's pushed them all back together. The Corvette driver there being a little bit of an interfering player in the battle for second place in the rookie class, and the pro driver here just trying to break away. That's not to point the finger at him, but that's what happens in multi-driver class racing. You do get drivers in the end who step over each other, and that can cause battles to come back together as much as it can cause them to spread. So therefore we come to the second place battle in this rookie class and right in the way through turn number 10. And we'll see right now it's still in the hands of Luke Checker for the moment, but Jordan Jones and Richard Jones are there, and it is a three-way fight all the way to the end. We're on lap number 26 for our leaders. They are heading on towards turn 7, 8 and 9 right now, and we are approximately only 18 minutes away from seeing that Checker flag after the final lap. So we've still got a bit of distance to go here, but right now things seem to be calming down between everybody in the racing circuit, albeit not if you're in the hunt for the podium in the rookies, that I can tell you. But as these drivers head on through, oh, that's an off track, and that's Darren Giacovelli having a bit of a moment as he comes back on. Well, he stays to the side there as they come in towards the roller coaster. But for Darren Giacovelli, that could have been close to tears there. He's last of our runners at the moment, a lap down in 39th place. I think struggling a little bit with the VIR circuit. But the number 30 driver showing great awareness there of everything playing out. But let's be aware to the fact that here comes Richard Jones, looking up the inside for third in rookies versus Jordan Jones on the inside there. Now, will Jordan go hard on the brakes around the outside, or will he cut it back? He's got options here. If he wants to go for it, he's going to cut back in, and then he's going to try and find a way to get involved. But you can see there, Richard decides, no, you don't. I've seen that one in a little book of overtakes, and we'll in towards the NASCAR bend they go, and Richard Jones gets the move cemented. Now, can he go hunting after Luke Checker and bring home that second place finish, which will be one of his best, if not his best performance of the season in terms of the place he's finished in? We will find out in due course, as that's a big mistake there from Luke Checker. Goes very deep on exit. Well, Richard Jones practically follows him in that endeavour, so doesn't gain the time he would have. But Luke Checker there, you could see the line not quite comfortable with the car like he would have been previously. And I think a little bit of nerves are now starting to creep in for all three drivers. Well, for Richard Jones, the nerves are going away. But for Jordan Jones and Luke Checker, I think it's just starting to take a toll here. It's been a long race for them. 60 minutes doesn't sound like long, but over this distance, with the intensity of the race, and it will feel like an eternity. The number 16 Ferrari driver here just trying to get himself calmed down. He'll have the team on the wall telling him, Luke, just simply look forward, just focus on what you can do. And as he makes way onwards here, not to sound as though it's a Star Wars cliche, but they'll be telling him to trust his instincts there, much like Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. However, we're not going to have the voice of the Force here telling Luke Checker to make his way forward. He's forced his way into this second place position, albeit fairly, and now he's just trying to bring it on home. But will it be his second place, or will it be Richard Jones here? Well, we'll have to see as that battle goes on all the way to the very end, and Jordan Jones is still a player over this distance. Further up the road, meanwhile, in terms of place changes, well, Daniel Stasuk was being caught by his teammate Nils Bauckhage, and in fact that gap has come down to 4 tenths. So I believe it might be the situation whereby these two right now just running together, and perhaps Stasuk backing off the pace a little bit just to save some fuel, make sure he's got plenty to get to him. Perhaps they've identified they're going to do an extra lap than planned, or they're very close to an extra lap than planned, so therefore saving some fuel. He had the gap to work with at 2 seconds, so therefore he can sacrifice it, and I can imagine his teammate Nils there will be tucked in behind, and they'll work it out towards the very end. And I suspect the gloves will come off between them if they want to, but a 1-2 for the team, and indeed a team's championship that's going their way. Well, this result will definitely be a big boost in that regard on both accounts. We'll have to see how that plays out for them. We're looking back to the class standings there, and we'll right now, hold up a second, what's happened? Luke Checker, he's on the grass. Oh, Darren Giacovelli comes on through. Checker puts the brakes on just in time. No, and John Davies comes right into the scene in the instant, and in the end, he wanted to go one way. Luke decided to go the same way, and it's all gone wrong between the two of them. And well, for John Davies as well, I think that is going to be a wounded McLaren. Can he get it around? Well, he's limping now. I think there's major suspension damage. I wouldn't be surprised if that car's into the pits in this lap, if it can make it to the pit lane. He's really struggling right now. The car is wobbling, and well, what exactly happened to Luke Checker, was doing so well running in second place in the rookie class? It's all unfolded. It's end up in tears, and well, as he pulls off the road, well, meanwhile, we've got to come back to Richard Jones and Jordan Jones, because now that Luke Checker's out of the picture, they're fighting for second place between the two of them. They're both guaranteed a podium here unless they take each other off, and Jordan Jones is absolutely breathing down the neck of Richard Jones. And well, right now there is going to be no move between them, albeit coming through Hog Pen. Can Jordan get a better run this time, as John Davies has had to be towed to the pit lane? He can't make it home on his own volition, and the damage to the suspension too much, so there are tears there. And well, I think Jordan Jones is too far back to look for the move, and that gives us an opportunity to look at exactly what happened to Luke Checker only moments ago. And here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen. Now, where's he made his way out turn number 5 and in towards Snake. He's going to come through the right hander at turn number 6. Takes a lot of apex curb initially, then takes a lot of apex curb at the second part. gets caught up high, drops the car down, it bottoms the car out, and Luke Checker rebounds. And I think the eagerness to go racing, it's a very easy mistake to make. He brought himself back onto the circuit thinking, I need to go race, and in his brain suddenly went, actually, I shouldn't because of the incidents that I could cause, and in the end, it all ended up that way. And once an experience he'll learn from, he'll be gutted about that, though, because he was doing so well there, and will Luke Checker's race in the pit lane right at the close. As we come back to your live race, and still more to come, ladies and gentlemen. We're not all said and done yet. We may have had a bit of drama there, but there can always be a bit of drama before all is said and done between our drivers. There's no doubt about it. But we look to Pavel Dozal and Tobias Kruken now. These two have been following each other for some sizable time. And remember, Kruken was ahead of Dozal, but he took too much fuel in the pits, and that's why they swapped places. But now it's going to be Dozal under a lot of pressure here, because Kruken, the closest he's been over the last 5 to 6 laps, and roaring the way on around in towards turns 11 and 12. And no way in at the moment, but Kruken, I think, all he needs is one good run and for Dozal to drop it on a corner exit, and that's where he can gain, because we've already seen the fact that Dozal's Mercedes is made a little bit more for the straights by comparison. Kruken has to be absolutely perfect on corner exit to stay in the tow and not let Dozal break away, or at least not to a sizable distance. But the opposite is true as well, with Kruken having all the corner speed. If Dozal even makes one error mid-apex, that will bring Kruken right into the fight. And we're seeing that now as they roar the way through the roller coaster, and the fact Kruken within 2.5 tenths here for the more technical part of the circuit. Onto the straight they come, and will it still be that way as they roar the way onto a 29th lap of racing? Well, we are in fact a 30th lap of racing, I should say. We're almost at the end here, 5 laps to go, and well, for Tobias Kruken, he's close, but not close enough this time. So we say hello to Cy Anthony, who confirms there in the YouTube chat, front suspension completely knackered on Luke's car. Oh, is that some move up the inside of Tobias Kruken? Goes away on the brakes, and Pavel Dozal simply says, no you don't, because I saw that coming, and that's why I cut it back. So a quick switch back between the two of them. Kruken showing his hand, and Pavel Dozal simply saying, you've overstepped your mark. But Kruken right now has got the bit between his teeth as we ride aboard the front bumper of the Solpec Precision of Racing 14. Left into right he goes, as he does right now. Kruken has got the bit between his teeth. This is the most aggressive we've seen in a race all season here. This is a brilliant battle for third place in elite and overall. He is absolutely hounding his car around the circuit right now, and I think he's decided, you know what, this is going to go one of two ways. As we get the dashboard up there, this is the speed he's carrying in that dirty air. The best part of 158 miles an hour. He goes onto the brakes, making his way on over the crest and down in towards Oak Tree Corner. And as he does right now, Tobias Kruken doing everything he can, literally throwing the car from corner to corner. And well, that is why the gap is no longer going above 4 tenths, because he is absolutely putting Dozal under the ultimate pressure, and he has to. It is the only way he can potentially make a move, is by breathing it down the neck of his rival. He hasn't got the straight line speed, he's got all the corner speed, he's got the confidence in the brakes, and therefore he just needs one opening. He tried it only moments ago at turn number 1, went too far, but this time as he comes down for the roller coaster, he'll go for it again, surely, if he gets it right. And could that be the time he does get it right? A second time of asking. We will see then as they make the way on through and on towards Hogpen. Close, but not close enough here, and I think not as good an exit this time. 3 attempts they head onto the straight, and in fact Dozal gets the better exit and opens up the gap initially, and I don't think there's going to be a comeback between the two of them for now. Whilst all this is playing out, we also need to talk about a battle that's growing in the pro class here between two old friends on the circuit. Nathan Scott and Cy Anthony here. Indeed, they are veterans of the UK Sim Racing Series, and right now they've had plenty of great moments. Indeed, Cy Anthony has got an absolute diary of moments and battles with Empire Motorsport machines. Indeed, perhaps one of the biggest names, of course, being Sam Congreve and their infamous battle at Road Atlanta in the GT3 League Season 8, if my memory serves me correctly, in the season finale, where it's all about strategy, a 2-stop versus a 3-stop in the 90-minute race. And right now, Cy Anthony, less strategic, it gets very close to the back of Nathan Scott, and misses braking point slightly, and Cy Anthony looks for the cutback, but in the end, Biff Scott on the rear, and I think they're giving a little bit of a friendly message saying, remember me, and I think Nathan is saying under his breath, yes, I do indeed. But as they come out of that corner, well, that's going to cause the gap to open up a little bit more. They are fighting for 6th in pro, but to them, every point matters, no doubt about it. But from them, we've also got a battle for 3rd place in pro, and this is Matthew Cheverton versus Daniel Shilcock. And Matthew Cheverton right now going very defensive. Shilcock on the inside, it goes all in, and the Track 6 Racing driver, does he get it now? Yes, he does. and goads Matthew Sheraton into a small mistake and therefore moves up into that third place. Matthew Sheraton will try and come back, but I get the feeling that BMW may have just chewed through its tyres a little bit more than it would like to. So Anthony meanwhile now trying to rinse and repeat, albeit through left hook. He goes into turn number 4 up the inside of Nathan Scott and gets the move done for 6th place in Pro. So change the foot in the Pro class there with only 3 laps to go, and with some brilliant battling between our drivers, no doubt about it, as they make the way underneath our camera. And just behind there is Sean Cranny-Swash, your 2nd place AM driver, and Tom Weston nowhere near close enough to get involved, but he would love to be breathing on these guys, but he can't find a way to do so. But as these drivers carry on, well, what's happening elsewhere out on circuit? Right now we do have Luke Checker out there battling with Darian Giacovelli. He is effectively a lap down now, but he wants to try and take 7th place from rookie. And Checker, I think, here just trying to go for some consolation points. Completely understandable. He's going to be close. Giacovelli there on the outside. I don't think Darian's going to battle that too hard. I think he's going to wait to see if Luke does outbreak himself. He doesn't. And Luke Checker there, rather comfortably up into 7th place in rookie. But I think for Darian Giacovelli, all learning experience here and dealing with the blue flags. That's the Altitude 3M eSport Ford Mustang going around the outside. Giacovelli tries to follow it, but Checker knows exactly where to position himself, and that is going to be a run wide almost, but not quite there from Ford Mustang driver of, I believe that was Joe Newman there, who just about kept it together, albeit it's going to be a murder again for Luke Checker at the run into Snake. Runs very wide there, coming out to left hook into turn 5, but he just about gets it together. But that corner sequence, I think he's never going to want to drive it again after today, I can tell you that. But as they make their way past us, we come to Stuart Reynolds, who's got the growing pressure of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, who's closed up, in fact, over the last couple of laps. And I believe Reynolds, in fact, found his way ahead of Tomlinson Dennis a little bit earlier on. Unfortunately, I don't think we have that replay available because Stuart Reynolds did come out behind Tomlinson Dennis. So, yes, they did change places off camera. We do apologise for missing that. But Reynolds has got back here, but Tomlinson Dennis is now back with him. The gap opened up to 1.3 seconds, and it's now come back down again between the two of them. So, Reynolds here, I think right now, just trying to coax the Fury Simsport Ford Mustang to the checkered flag, albeit is he running out of steam? Well, we will find out because it's close, but is it close enough between the two of them? Not quite certain, but right now what is getting increasingly close is in the Pro classes. That's Daniel Shilcock in the McLaren 720S, holding on to 3rd place in Pro ahead of Matthew Sheraton in the BMW M4, the Aztec Racing machine, and with Track 6 Racing, we are cheering on their driver as much as possible. From them, let's come back to Milton Tomlinson Dennis up the inside there of Stuart Reynolds into turn 1, and Reynolds just simply says, and thank you very much, I'll take that back. So Tomlinson Dennis going a bit deep, and we saw that, of course, between Dolzat and Kruken only a few laps beforehand, where the exact same thing happened between them. Both drivers showing great respect in the elite class and demonstrating their awareness of each other. It's always wonderful to see, and that's where we do get the finest of battles between drivers. But they make the way out onto the second stretch, and as they do with Stuart Reynolds right now not able to pull away. Tomlinson Dennis right there with him, but will that be it between them, or will we see one last gasp before the checkered flag comes out? Well, we will find out in due course. As meanwhile, Matthew Sheraton, well, if he wanted to make a move here, he's going to have to be smart about this because Shilcock sees it coming and says, I'll defend the inside. Now, does he go too deep? He goes a bit deep. Sheraton's on the inside here. He's going to have 2 wide for the kink of 2 as it comes up on the left, but it will be Shilcock who's on the inside there, and Sheraton has to back off, switches back to the inside, cuts it in. Shilcock comes across, contact between the two of them, and I think Shilcock wanted it. Now, Sheraton would argue that he had the right to be there and he had the overlap. Shilcock, I think, thought there wasn't as much overlap and he could close the door shut, but Matthew Sheraton there, I think, coming off the stronger of the two, and well, I can imagine that one will be a bit of a disagreement between the two of them out of the cars and into the pit lane after the race. Shilcock won't be too happy about that, and the Track 6 Racing driver in the end losing 3rd place in the Pro class, and Sheraton up there into the podium places. But as he makes his way off into the distance, we come back to the front of the field because here's your top 2 over in the elite class, and Daniel Stasuk right now leading by only 4 attempts ahead his teammate of none other than Nils Bauckhage, but it does seem as though a 1-2 is on the cards here for NJB Performance, and there is going to be an absolute party down the paddock between them today. But which one of the two will be on the top step of the podium and which one of them will be on the second step of the elite podium? Well, we're not too far away from finding out because we are on the final lap. We are at 60 minutes now as they've gone on to this one, and we're behind who will be on that first step of the podium. Will it be Paceworks Esports' Pavel Dazal, or will it be Solpec Racing's Tobias Kruk? And they are pushing each other every step of the way here, and I can imagine that Tobias right now is probably driving the wheels off of that number 14 Mercedes, the second of the two of them, the chasing car, because he hasn't got the straight line speed, but right now he has made that car carry so much more speed out of every apex, that I think if he carried any more speed, he would be ripping the curbs off, because he is absolutely gluing himself to this tarmac, and it's wonderful to see. As he's going to move up the inside, he's got the opportunity. He's going to be there. Dolzar runs out wide, and he just about keeps it together. But it's going to be a drag race up the hill here. Dolzar immediately cuts over to the racing line and says to Kruken, right, I want this line. I want all the space into turn 13. Go up the inside of me if you dare. Now, will Kruken go for it, or will he stay tucked in behind? I think it's going to be a latter here, where he's going to pull out. He's going to make us guess as they come into the braking zone. Too wide, they enter into roller coasters and squeeze. Dolzar looking around the outside to the inside, and Kruken can't carry it all the way through roller coaster. And in the end, Dolzar does get it back. Brilliant racing between the two of them. And Kruken right now has got to try and throw something onto the start-finish straight. Speaking of which, the tries come towards the timing line. The checker flag waves, and it's going to be a 1-2 here for NJB Performance. And it's Daniel Stasuk who wins ahead of Nils Bauckhage in second. But in the fight for third overall and in elite, it's Pavel Dolzar who just holds off Tobias Kruken at the checker flag. Then it'll be Stuart Reynolds in fifth place ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, with then Alberto Gravilli in a lonely seventh place, before we have an extra 9 seconds and to Joe Newman in 8th place there as he comes towards the timeline. And well, for the Altitude 3M esports driver today, not quite been the race he's wanted, but still a solid performance. Sam Derbyshire will take 9th place ahead of Simon Bamber, who comes on home to complete your top 10. There'll be Darren Giacovelli finishing the last of our overall runners. And then here comes Krista Halzai, who takes 11th place overall, but pro victory for the Corvette driver and Track 6 Racing. Well done to him. Brett Berings will take victory in the AM class. They're absolutely unstoppable in his Audi for DDK Racing Team. Ruben Berings will be the runner-up in the pro class. And then we've got James Armstrong and James Ibrahim coming across, before Matthew Cheverton will come through to take a little bit of a bumpy third place in the pro class between himself and Daniel Shilcock, who finishes just behind. I'm sure they'll talk about that one after the race, but a great battle in between the two of them, it must be said. Ryan Davies will finish 5th in the pro class. And then we've got Sight Anthony before Sean Cranley Swash is your runner-up in the AM class. Well done to Sean ahead of Nathan Scott, with Tom Weston 3rd in the AMs. And then Alistair Murray, here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. He'll take 25th on the road, but most importantly for him, it's going to be rookie victory here for the Mercedes driver from UK Sim Racing. What a try from him. And between him, Malik Bass, and then it will be 2nd place in the rookie class for Richard Jones. So on the 4th time of trying this season, it finally comes to him. A podium that's long missed him over the season, and he will be the superior Jones ahead of Jordan Jones, who rounds off your rookie podium there. And I'm sure Jordan won't get offended at that, because it's been the battle of the Joneses there for 2nd place of the rookies. Richard ahead of Jordan today, and that will be your lead lap finishers, with Helder Gonzalez being the last of them in 29th place. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen, and indeed incredible racing up and down the field here at VIR. But this man, Daniel Stasuk, he just has made the magic happen once again here today in the US state of Virginia, and it doesn't seem to be an opportunity for anybody right now to be able to break his grip on the front. If he's on the grid and he puts it on pole, he just controls the pace over the race. And the NJB Performance driver now has 3 wins in 3 races he's attended, and it's another 1-2 for him and his teammate Nils Bauckhage. And well, with that, we've run out of tape, and that gives us the perfect opportunity to take a look at the finisher positions subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are after 60 minutes of racing at the VIR circuit. So round number 4 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 League Season 15 went the way overall of Daniel Stasuk for NJB Performance ahead of his teammate Nils Bauckhage, and then we saw Pavel Dolzar rounding off your top 3 for Paceworks Esports. Tobias Kruken was 4th for Solpec Precision Racing, pushing absolutely as much as humanly possible. A brilliant drive from him, and in the end couldn't quite find that podium, but what an effort from him. Stuart Reynolds 5th there for Fury Sim Sport, with a pit stop that didn't quite go his way, and had to battle his way for 5th past Milton Tomlinson Dennis. The World Race for STR Motorsport driver was 6th ahead of Alberto Gravilli for FX Simulations. And we saw your top 10 round off by Joe Newman for Altitude 3M Esports, ahead of Sam Derbyshire for SimCoach, and Simon Bamber for FX Simulations Carbon. Best of the rest in the length was your pro class winner, Krista Halzai for Track 6 Racing. Well done to Krista. He was in a class of his own today, moved his way into the lead after that pole position, and never let it go. But also credit where it's due to Brett Berings, who out-qualified the pro class. In the end, the AM pole sitter brought home AM victory, and right now is looking unstoppable there. 12th place overall for DDK with Digital Motor Art. Ruben Berings was 2nd place in the pros there, behind his fellow family member. And well, for Ruben, it was a 13th place for DDK with Race Anywhere. And then we saw James Armstrong for Brabham Motorsport and James Ibram for Effect Simulations Carbon round off your top 15 before we came to Matthew Cheverton. Third place in pros there for Aztec Racing. Definitely right in the thick of the batting all the way through, as we always expect the 390 driver to be. And well, in the end, in a bit of a contentious battle between himself and Daniel Shilcock, getting the upper hand, and the Tractix Racing driver finishing in 4th place in pro class. We won't focus too much more on the overall finishing positions because it's the classes where the points are made. Let's just focus on the podium finishes overall. And as we can see there, all the way down in 20th, Sean Cranley Swash. He was your runner-up in the AM class there for Pigeon Racing. A solid drive from Sean Cranley Swash because he managed to stay one step ahead of Tom Weston, who finished 3rd in the AM class and well took 22nd there for DDK with Digital Motor Art. You then have to go all the way back to 25th to find your rookie class winner, Alistair Murray. Well done to him for UK Sim Racing Hill. Looks absolutely inflappable today and will did a fantastic job there ahead of Richard Jones, who was 27th at Slow and Steady Racing, finally taking that 2nd place spot on the rookie podium, which he's been chasing all season. And the privateer Jordan Jones rounded off your rookie podium finishers in 28th place. In terms of the last lead lap finishers, it was 29th finisher of Helder Gonzalez for Tractix Racing, and then it was a lap down for 30th place driver Simon Oldfield, as it was for several drivers out there all the way through to John Davies in 35th place. 2 laps down for both Luke Checker and Darian Giacovelli, with their unfortunate races taking a toll, and then it was 3 laps down to Neil Kenyon, and we did see retirements unfortunately for Casper Brotner, Daniel Pays, and last but not least, Michael Gray, who retired after only a lap turned due to damage on the car. We're coming to your individual class finishing positions now, and this is where all the points are scored, of course. Starting with the elite class, we can see Daniel Stasuk there, taking that win by a 10th over line ahead of his teammate Nils Bauckhage for NJB Performance, and then Paceworks Esports Pavel Dolzal completed your top 3. Tobias Kruken was 4th in a brilliant battle between himself and Dolzal, but the Solpec Precision Racing driver will know today that a little bit less rear wing would have given the straight line speed, but he did everything he could in order to keep Dolzal under pressure, and that's why they were separated by 3 tenths at the line. Stuart Reynolds was 5th for Fury Sim Sport, and what a drive from him to get back ahead of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, but he will be gutted because he was on course for a podium before the pit stops. Alberto Grilli was 7th for Effect Simulations ahead of Joe Newman, and then we saw Sam Derbyshire and Simon Bamber around off the elite top 10. Best the rest in 11th was James Armstrong, the Brabham Motorsport driver, unfortunately going backwards, not forwards as the distance went on. And it was another James Ibram there, struggling for Effect Simulations Carbon, taking 12th in the Lamborghini Huracan. And then we rounded off the elite class with Helder Gonzalez in 13th, ahead of Casper Tunstead was a lap down, and the unfortunate retirement of Michael Gray on his debut for Full Tilt Motorsport. Then coming on to the pro class, and here we could see in the pros it was Krista Halzoy who won by 5.4 seconds for Tractix Racing. Never truly out of danger necessarily, but comfortably ahead enough to feel as though he'd need his rivals to push a little bit harder if he wanted to be at risk. Ruben Berings was the driver who was trying to push the most, but the DDK would race anywhere dry having to settle for second, albeit he won't be too upset about that given the fact he'll extend his championship lead with that result. Head of Matthew Cheverton for Aztec Racing who round off the podium, and Daniel Shilcock a further 1.5 seconds behind took 4th for Tractix Racing. Ryan Davies round off the top 5, the privateer ahead of UK Sim Racing Price's St. Anthony, and it was Nathan Scott for Empire Motorsport ahead of DDK with Race Anyway's Giles Philippetts, and Malik Bass and Casper Brotner who rounded off your pro top 10 with the unfortunate retirement for Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars. We'll then come to the AM class, and as we can see here at the front of the AM field, it was Brett Berings for DDK with Digital Motor Art, a 26.7 second win there. What a margin for the Audi driver. And behind him, Sean Cranley Swash was the best of the rest in second for Pigeon Racing, only at the line a second ahead of Tom Weston for DDK with Digital Motor Art. It's a double podium for the DDK team, although they would have loved to won too, but Tom Weston couldn't quite find a way to interrupt the flow of the Ford Mustang of Cranley Swash. Darren Sharpers was 4th for Old Dudes in Cars, and they were the last of the lead lap finishers, with a lap down to both Simon Oldfield for Hoof Hearted and UK Sim Racing Stewart's James Conley. 3 laps down there, but classified as a finisher for Neil Kenyon for UK Sim Racing Price. And then we did see the retirement, unfortunately, for Daniel Pace for Old Dudes in Cars. Then coming on to the rookie class, last but by no means least, and as we saw here, it was Alistair Murray who took victory for UK Sim Racing Hill by 14.3 seconds, and in the end, the Mercedes driver just qualifying well and pulling away after he took the lead, and doing a fantastic job as well of gapping the field and putting pros and AMs between himself and the likes of Richard Jones and Jordan Jones, and that's how he built up the gap. However, for second, it was the battle of the Joneses, and it was Richard ahead of Jordan, the slow and steady racing driver, beating the privateer. They're not related by blood, but right now they definitely enjoyed a great battle there, the right to be the superior Jones. Stuart Pearson took 4th there for slow and steady racing, and what a performance from Stuart Pearson. Let's give this man a round of applause because he started right at the back of the field and gradually crept forward. didn't make too many mistakes out there, and that goes to show you it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and good points there for Slow and Steady Racing in the rookie class. Dan Oliver Fox was 5th for the privateer, also a lap down ahead of John Davies of the Wrong Stuff, who after his altercation with Luke Checker unfortunately had to settle for 6th, and then it was Luke Checker 7th there, 2 laps down after running in 2nd for so long, a small mistake coming into the snake pen, and we did see the number 16 Ferrari go around, and in the end it ended in tears. But he still finished the race, as did Darren Giacomelli, last of the rookie finishers for Swazi Gold there in 8th place. So those are all the finishing positions, ladies and gentlemen, and that is a rundown of all the results. And what a race, no doubt about it. But of course, with the race complete, we now do have the ultimate question of doing our giveaway winners as the circuit falls on here at VIR, and we do look to do our giveaways. So without further ado, it is time then to get ready to spin the wheel. And all of our 41 entrants today, they all finished the race, which is absolutely great to see. So give us a brief moment and we will get all of our drivers' names inputted into our wheel of fortune, if you will, and we always begin with a 3-month subscription. Now, of course, this, like all of them, is for any driver who at least made it to the grid. And let's just remove some names, because, of course, we have had some previous winners, and the names we have to remove will be, firstly, Simon Bamber. We have to chop him off the list. There he goes. We also have to remove Ryan Davies, who has previously won the award, and there he is. And we also have to remove Xander Hill, albeit I believe we didn't have Xander Hill on the grid today. I am just going to do a sanity check. No, he was not on the grid, so that means we can spin the wheel, ladies and gentlemen, and find out who is our 3-month VR subscription winner. Here we go. And the winner for our 3-month subscription will be Pavel Dolzau, and he becomes our first repeat winner of a VRS award. He won the 1-month prize in round number 1's draws, and he's just picked up the 3-month prize. So congratulations to Pavel, and he becomes the first repeat winner of this season for the VRS subscription giveaway. We now come to the 2-month prize, and here we have to remove some names. One of them wasn't on the grid, Jack Barker, so he won't be included on this list by default. We also have to remove Simon Oldfield, as he gets deleted, and we have to remove Darren Sharples, or Daz as he's known to close company. And where is Mr. Sharples out there? I believe we had him on the grid, and in fact, as we do just briefly get escorted down to the bottom of the screen, apologies for that, we're just using the find and replace there to make things a little bit easier. Well, here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, all names removed. Let's spin the wheel and find out who's your 2-month winner. And we've got another repeat winner now, because Simon Bamber took the 3-month prize in round number 1, and now he's taken the 2-month prize. Congratulations to Simon. We now come to the 1-month award, and this, of course, will exclude Pavel Dolzau, who we mentioned only moments ago. Also, it will remove James Armstrong, and we will also remove from here Christopher Bates, who wasn't on the grid today. So we are good to go. Let's spin the wheel for our final giveaway, the 1-month prize. And it's Cy Anthony who takes the 1-month prize there. So congratulations to all 3 of our winners. Cy Anthony taking his first prize of the season, and indeed bucking the trend of repeat winners. And that completes our VRS giveaway for today's broadcast. So before we wrap up, let's talk a little bit about the class championship standings then. And as we come on to the elite class, starting with them first and foremost, we can see it's Daniel Stasuk who leads the way on a grand total now of 91 points. And, well, a comfortable 9-point margin ahead of his teammate Nils Bauckhage there, and NJB Performance leading the way. Pavel Dolzau sits in third there on 78 points and is starting to lose touch with the leader, but well in touch with the second place man. And Sam Derbyshire, with his consistency, holds on to fourth for Simcoach. He's only ahead of Milton Tomlinson Bennett Dennis based on result countback in the world of racing with STR Motorsport driver. We're looking for a better performance next time out to jump back into the top 4. Stuart Reynolds sits in 6th place there for Fury Simsport ahead of Joe Newman. And then we do have Austin William Campbell, Tobias Kruken and Alberto Grilli completing your top 10. Simon Bamber is 11th ahead of James Palsland. We have James Armstrong, Casper Tunstead, Jarrett Lee, James Ibrahim, Helder Gonzalez and Michael Gray completing the standings. And commiserations, of course, for Michael Gray with that early retirement, no points on his debut. Coming on to the Pro class then, and here we can see the complexion. Well, it's a little bit similar. Ruben Berings, he may have finished second today, but with 2 wins and a second place as his counting scores right now, he is leading the way by 8 points over Ryan Davies, and the DDK with Race Anywhere driver is looking to be in growing unstoppable form. Daniel Shilcock for Tractix Racing sits in third. He'll be gutted not to have taken that brilliant run for third in the end on the circuit today, but he does pick up a bonus point, and I believe that bonus point being for the fastest lap over the race distance. Xander Hill sits in fourth, not on the grid today, but we'll expect him back in a week's time. Head of Casper Brunner for Old Dudes in Cars, who rounds off your top 5. Is a third point behind Krista Halsoy with that brilliant class win today, and also with it pole position, enjoying a fantastic 31 points. He leaps his way into 6th, 5 ahead of Giles Philippettes, and we see Darren Norquette, Nathan Foster and Cy Anthony round off the Pro top 10. Best the rest in 11th is Matthew Cheverton, and with his first set of points on the board, he's ahead of Nathan Scott by the best part of 8 points, and it's Malik Bass and Christian Maltrek who complete the Pro standings. Coming on to the AM class standings meanwhile, and here we can see the complexion. Well, it's the biggest gap of anybody so far. Brett Berings with 3 wins counting as his scores so far, albeit round number 2 at Brands Hatch seems to be an anomaly. The DDK Digital Motor Art driver is looking absolutely unstoppable right now, and a maximum score of 32 once again. Sean Crannies sits in second, and another second place there, following on from his second place at Daytona, means that he holds a 9-point advantage over Neil Kenyon. But between the Pigeon Race and the UK Sim Racing Price drivers, from their 9 points, it's only a further point to Tom Weston, who looked in fierce force today for DDK with Digital Motor Art. The Old Dudes in Cars pair of Darren Sharples and Daniel Pays are 5th and 6th, and it's a further 12 points to Jack Barker, who wasn't on the grid today for Made for Racing, expect him back in a week's time. Simon Oldfield for Hoof Hearted sits in 8th, ahead of the UK Sim Racing Stuart pair of James Connolly and Rob Windsor, and outside the top 10, it's Peter Duke, Nathan Anstis, Matt Edmondson, Jeffrey Damon, Ryan Wolseley, and Ashley Brooks, who complete your AM standings. We'll then come to the rookie class, and as we can see on screen with the rookies, it's BJ Alvarez who still leads. He wasn't on the grid today, but his points in the opening 3 rounds have kept him comfortable at what is there, 7 points ahead of UK Sim Racing Hill's Alistair Murray. John Davies sits in third on 76 points, 2 behind the UK Sim Racing Hill driver, and the Wrong Stuff driver picks up some good points, but not the points he wanted today. John Lee Jones sits in fourth there on 66 points, 4 ahead of both Stuart Pearson and Christopher Bates. Pearson moving into 5th with that result, and ahead of Bates based on result countback. And then we do see Richard Jones in 7th place there with that 2nd place, finally giving him the points that he deserves of Slow and Steady Racing, ahead of Pavel Bruce for DWR Simcoach Setups Red. And it's Dan Oliver Fox and Simon Cheshire who round off your rookie top 10. And Darren Giacovelli sits only outside the top 10 based on result countback, and it's Thomas Helmer, Steve Hughes, Alex Brown, Simon Hartley, Luke Checker, Rise Kitley, and Martin Fernie, who round off the rookie standings. Lastly, going to the team standings, and here we can see in terms of your top 15, where it's DDK with Digital Motor Art and NJB Performance, who are battling at the top, with the DDK team only 2 points ahead of their NJB counterparts. DDK with Race Anywhere, meanwhile, sitting third, only 1 point ahead of Tractix Racing, but these teams, they're starting to fall away from the top 2, and the gap from third to second is 15 points, and it's growing gradually. Old Dudes in Cars sit in 5th, a comfortable 12 points ahead of Slow and Steady Racing, who leap ahead of Paceworks Esports, who only had 1 driver on the grid today. And in UK Sim Racing Price, sit in 8th place, 12 points ahead of the sister team UK Sim Racing Hill, where Effect Simulations rounding off the top 10. Push the Standard, sit in 11th, best of the rest, 5 points ahead of UK Sim Racing Stuart. Now have Pigeon Racing, The Wrong Stuff, and Tiki Sim Sport round off the top 15. And on the 70 points of Tiki Sim Sport, sitting in 16th, it's World of Racing with STR. And that's an update on the championship standings after 4 rounds of racing. So with that, it's now time for us to officially wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you have enjoyed today's show and you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the UK Sim Racing community or how you can be on the grid in our ongoing or upcoming series and all for that and more, we do recommend firstly you head to our official website. And our website, of course, being at uksimracing.co.uk, and here it is on screen, ladies and gentlemen, our new website, indeed a new design for 2025, and well, absolutely brimming and packed with information, and a very simple and easy to navigate user interface. On the homepage, like you can see, you can stay up to date with all the latest announcements that are pulled directly from the UK Sim Racing Discord, and if you want to be on the grid with us, the number 1 place to go to is the official Discord. Invite link on the top right corner of that screen. All you got to do is click on it, and also on the other tabs of this webpage, we have access to our live streams and videos on demand, where you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts. Indeed, onboard perspectives on drives. It's like Formula 1 TV on there on a Sunday night of racing the GT3 League. We also do have the page for our partners if you want to get some brilliant affiliate discounts. And also we have our active leagues page, which explains exactly what leagues we've got ongoing and upcoming. So there's never been a better time to visit the UK Sim Racing webpage or become part of our community. However, if you're more of a social media person, we do recommend you follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _ to stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements there. And we'd like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season, Virtual Racing School, or VRS. Their web address, vrs.racing. And established in 2016, the VRS aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level in the world. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro liner wheelbases and pedals offers the cutting edge in sim racing hardware as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to VRS.racing today to find out more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn our attentions to next time. And in a week's time, we will be heading to Italy for the Misano World Circuit in Marco Simoncelli. And in Italy, we will complete the first half in terms of number of rounds this season with round number 5. All the racing will occur on Sunday the 27th of July. But come join us as if it were live on Monday the 28th of July. And we will ask ourselves the question: in the elite class, can anybody stop NJB Performance from running away with proceedings? In the pro and also the AM classes, can anybody bring a curbing to the performance and the momentum of the Berings family? And in the rookie class, who is it who's going to be leading coming out of Misano? It's looking close at the top. Only time will tell there, and the only way you can find out is by tuning in as we see the action unfold. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.